Sergeants, can we please start the recordings?
The cloud rolling.
Good morning, and welcome to today's remote New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Civil Service and Labor, jointly with Economic Development and Women and Gender Equity. At this time, we ask that council members and council staff please turn on their video for verification purposes. To minimize disruptions throughout the hearing, please place all cell phones and electronic devices to vibrate or silent. If you have testimony you wish to submit for the record, you may do so via email at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. We thank you for your cooperation. We are ready to begin.
Good morning. I am Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, Chair of the New York City Council's Committee on Civil Service and Labor. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge my colleagues and members of the Civil Service and Labor Committee who have joined us so far. We have Madam Speaker, our Speaker, Adrian Adams, who has joined us this morning. We have Councilmember Moya, Councilmember Hanks, Councilmember Dinowitz, Councilmember Menon, Councilmember Botcher, Councilmember Nurse, Councilmember Feliz. I'm missing anybody else? And that's it on the Civil Service and Labor Committee. And now I'll go on to read my opening statement. I'm asking everyone to bear with me because I have the flu and I'm struggling with my voice today. So thank you so much for being with us. As the chair of the Civil Service and Labor Committee, it is an honor to have you join us for this oversight hearing on gender diversity in the trades. Today's hearing is a collaborative effort with the Committees on Women and Gender Equity and the Economic Development Committee, chaired by my colleagues, Council Members Tiffany Caban and Council Member Amanda Farias. At today's hearing, the committee will examine how the city can help facilitate recruitment and retention of women in the construction trades. We will also be hearing legislation, Intro 179 of 2022, sponsored by Councilmember Francisco Moya, which will create a task force to examine the role of women in non-traditional workplaces, such as women in construction, utilities, maintenance, green, and transportation industries. As COVID-19 continues to affect the lives and livelihoods around the world, we can already see that the pandemic and its economic fallout are having regressive effects on gender equity. Recent studies have documented the disproportionate economic impact that the pandemic has had on women, especially women of color. With women withdrawing from the workforce at exponential rates, state and local governments must take action now to ensure that public funds are being used to create high-quality jobs that are equally accessible to women as they are to men. Unionized construction jobs pave a path to economic independence and security. The construction industry workers, ranged from electricians, carpenters, and plumbers, can earn a family-sustaining wage without obtaining a college degree. New York City's construction industry has had a strong tradition of apprenticeships and on-the-job trainings, which means that job seekers with interest and aptitude can enter the field without formal vocational education. Women who do gain access to the local construction industry typically earn 94.3% of what their male counterparts earn. According to the AFL-CIO, the wage gap in the local construction industry is likely due to a combination of factors such as prevailing wage laws, apprenticeship programs for women, and project labor agreements. In August 2022, the city signed a new series of project labor agreements with the Building and Construction Trades Council. The city touted these agreements as a way to connect New Yorkers from marginalized communities with apprenticeship opportunities that will lead to long-term careers in the construction industry. These new construction project labor agreements contain a memorandum of understanding which provides that 15% of the annual apprenticeship slots should be reserved for women, graduates of the non-traditional employment for women, also known as NEW. My focus in today's hearing will be to evaluate how the city is working with the building trades to ensure that apprenticeship targets are being met and properly enforced and supported. I am eager to hear from successful pre-apprenticeship programs such as NEW, who are supplying a pipeline of qualified women workers to critical local industries. I am hopeful that the city can learn from NEW's success and implement much needed reforms in local construction industries to achieve a greater gender equity and help women navigate the challenges of entering the skilled trades. I would like to thank our committee staff for their hard work in putting together today's hearing. Committee Counsel Bianca Vitali, Policy Analyst Elizabeth Arts, and my staff, Chief of Staff James Burke, Legislative Director Kiana Diaz, Legislative Fellow Diego Quintana. I will now turn it over to the Chair of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity, Councilmember Tiffany Caban, for opening remarks.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Chair De La Rosa. Good morning. I am Councilmember Tiffany Caban, Chair of New York City Council's Committee on Women and Gender Equity, and my pronouns are she, her. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues and members of the Women and Gender Equity Committee who have joined us so far today. Council members Richardson Jordan, Riley, Stevens, and Gutierrez. I also wanted to echo the thanks for everyone who is here today for this oversight hearing on gender diversity in the trades and hearing Councilmember Moya's Intro 179 relating to creating a task force to examine the role of women in non-traditional workplaces. It is well known that jobs traditionally associated with cisgendered men, such as the building trades we are discussing today, pay much higher salaries than those like childcare and domestic work, which are traditionally associated with women. In 2020, construction was the fourth highest paying employment sector in New York City, with an average salary of $87,200, while domestic workers make on average $28,320. That's less than 1/3 as much. At the same time, we're fighting to raise the standard for pay and workplace protections for our neighbors working in the latter fields. It's also important that we break down the barriers keeping women and gender expansive New Yorkers out of the former. So women make up just 7% of New York City's construction industry today, and we can and should do so much better. There are many reasons for this disparity. Some we know: unsupportive work environments, discrimination and harassment, pregnancy and maternity accommodations, childcare, and more. And others we will attempt to find out today. Ultimately, it's my hope that we can develop strategic recommendations for ending this double standard and promoting gender equity throughout our city's economy, and that we can identify ways for the council to support labor unions and working with women in apprenticeship to career pipeline. Before we move on, I would also like to thank Councilmember Moya for partnering with me on Intro 179. I am excited to work with my colleagues on pursuing both this legislation and all these lines of questioning in pursuit of the healthy, equitable city we all want and deserve. In addition to my staff, I would like to acknowledge the committee staff for preparing today's hearing: Committee Counsel Brenda McKinney, Senior Policy Analyst Chloe Rivera, and Financial Analyst Lauren Hunt. I will now turn it over to the Chair of the Committee on Economic Development, Councilmember Amanda Farias.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thanks to Chairs De La Rosa and Caban, and thank you to the members of all three committees for coming together to hold this joint hearing today. My name is Amanda Farias, and I have the privilege of chairing the Economic Development Committee. We are joined today by committee members Riley, Williams, Gutierrez, Aviles, and Kagan. Today's hearing marks the first time this session the council will have the opportunity to hear publicly from the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, an office developed in 2014 for the purpose of standardizing workforce efforts throughout the city. At a hearing in March, the Economic Development Committee expected to hear from that office, but they did not attend, so we are glad to see them here today. We would like to discuss the Office of Workforce Development's partnership with the construction industry, in particular, in order to evaluate the success of its initiatives over the last 8 years, and for the purposes of this hearing, what specifically the office is doing to support women, women of color, and the LGBTQ community in construction. We're also happy to see the Economic Development Corporation here today. While we know they will not be giving direct testimony, we will certainly have some questions about EDC's Hire NYC program, which was designed to connect the city's low-income residents to EDC projects. We would also like to discuss the progress of the city's New York Works program to create 100,000 good-paying jobs over the next 10 years, and whether or not such program is generating work for women and LGBTQ persons in construction. The committees today hope to hear from the administration about the progress that has been made toward advancing gender diversity in the trades and how the council can assist in furthering those efforts. Before I turn it over to the administration, I'd like to take a moment to thank the staff on the Economic Development Committee, Legislative Counsel Alex Polinoff, Senior Policy Analyst William Hongach, and Principal Financial Analyst Aliyah Ali for all their hard work in putting this hearing together. With that said, I will now turn the floor over to the committee counsel, Bianca Vitale, to go over some procedural items.
Thank you so much, Chair. Before I actually go over procedural items, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Francisco Moya and give him an opportunity to give remarks on his bill that the committees will also be hearing today, which is Intro 179 of 2022. Councilmember Moya, you may begin when you're ready.
I need you to, there we go. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, chairs. Thank you so much. Excuse me, I just had my tooth pulled, so if I sound a little off, that's why. Thank you. I'm here to speak on behalf of Intro 179. I want to thank all three chairs for allowing me the opportunity to speak on this bill. We know that there's much work to be done to advance women's equity in the workplace, including in non-traditional careers, such as the construction, utilities, maintenance, green, and transportation industries. The genesis of this bill was conversations I had with multiple women's committees from unions. I heard from MTA bus drivers not given accommodations when pregnant and not being able to fit behind the wheel. These women were forced to go on disability rather than provide them with another assignment. I heard from women flagging on subway tracks in tunnels all alone, one who suffered a miscarriage on the job. I heard from women forced to change and decontaminate from asbestos work in front of male coworkers. I heard these struggles and the issues women face, from discrimination to gaps in earnings to reasonable work accommodations and work-life balance for expectant mothers and mothers managing childcare challenges. My constituents have shared this, women I know have shared this, and we've seen how the pandemic exacerbated the issue women face at work. The bill I introduced last session, now Intro 179, is specifically to require the creation of a task force to evaluate and then issue a report on the role of women in non-traditional workplaces. This is one step towards ensuring that we are not only examining the role of women working in the construction, utilities, maintenance, green, and transportation industries, but that we have the right representation in place to conduct this review and make recommendations for how the city could establish a mechanism and build upon existing resources to support and empower women to pursue and succeed in careers in non-traditional fields. My hope is that the creation of this task force and subsequent review and recommendations will help this city better tackle issues that lead to challenges with recruitment and retention of women, sustained negative work environments for women, impact on how environments value diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other significant barriers to success for women in non-traditional workplaces. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing today's testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Moya. I'm going to turn it over to Bianca Vitale to go over some procedural items. I also want to recognize Councilmember Rita Joseph, who's a member of the Civil Service and Labor Committee, has joined us. Bianca.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bianca Vitale, and I'm counsel to the Committee on Civil Service and Labor for the New York City Council. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that you will be on mute until you are called on to testify, when you will be unmuted by the host. I will be calling on panelists to testify. Please listen for your name to be called. I will be periodically announcing who the next panelist will be. For everyone testifying today, please note that there may be a few seconds of delay before you are unmuted, and we thank you in advance for your patience. All hearing participants should submit written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov. At today's hearing, the first panelist to give testimony will be representatives from the administration, followed by council member questions, and then members of the public will testify. Council members who have questions for a particular panelist should use the raise hand function in Zoom, and I will call on you after the panelist has completed their testimony. I will now call on members of the administration to testify. Testimony will be provided by Jacqueline Ebanks, Executive Director of the New York City Commission on Gender Equity. Additionally, the following members of the administration will also be available for answering questions after testimony is provided by Executive Director Ebanks. Laura Gibson, Economic Development Advisor at the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development. Lucinda Glover, Deputy Commissioner of the Workforce Development Division at the NYC Department of Small Business Services, and Claudia Flores, Assistant Vice President, Opportunity MWDBE at the NYC Economic Development Corporation. Before we begin, I will administer the oath. I will call on each of you individually for a response. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Executive Director Ebanks?
I do.
Advisor Laura Gibson?
I do.
Deputy Commissioner Lucinda Glover? Say I do?
I do.
Okay, great. Sorry. Assistant Vice President Flores?
You do.
Thank you, guys. Executive Director Ebanks, you may begin when ready.
Thank you so much, and apologies for the technical difficulties this morning. Good morning, Chairs Caban, De La Rosa, and Farias, and members of the Committees on Civil Service and Labor, Economic Development, and Women and Gender Equity. I am Jacqueline Ebanks, Executive Director of New York City's Commission on Gender Equity. In this role, I also serve as an advisor to the mayor on policies and issues affecting gender equity in New York City for all girls, women, transgender, and gender non-binary New Yorkers, regardless of their ability, age, ethnicity, race, faith, gender expression, immigrant status, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. As noted by a few minutes ago, after my testimony today, I will be joined by Economic Development Advisor Laura Gibson of the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, Deputy Commissioner Lucinda Glover of the Workforce Development Division at the Department of Small Business Services, and Claudia Flores, Assistant Vice President of the Opportunity for the Minority Women and Disadvantaged Business Enterprises at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. We will all respond to your questions on this critical issue of gender equity and diversity in the trades. As New York City recovers from the debilitating impacts of COVID-19, the Adams administration is committed to building an inclusive and equitable economy that is accessible by all New Yorkers, regardless of their gender identity or expression. It is within this context that CGE works to remove equity barriers across New York City and carry out its activities across 3 areas of focus within a human rights frame and using an intersectional lens. These areas of focus are economic mobility and opportunity, where we seek to create a city in which people of all gender identities and expressions live economically secure lives and have access to opportunities to thrive. Our second area of focus is health and reproductive justice, where we pursue a goal of fostering a city free from gender and race-based health disparities. And our third and final area of focus is safety, with a goal of fostering a city free from gender and race-based violence. The issue of achieving gender equity and diversity in the trades falls within CGE's work on economic mobility and opportunity. In this portfolio, CGE strives to protect the rights of workers, regardless of gender identity and expression, and to promote equitable employment policies and practices across all sectors, including pay equity and sick and parental leave, to name a few. The Adams administration is committed to an equitable economy that connects New Yorkers to high-quality jobs and in-demand skills, as illustrated by the mayor's economic recovery blueprint. The blueprint outlines the city's commitment to providing workers with the supports they need to succeed, from access to childcare and broadband service to stipends for low-income workforce program participants. To do this work, the Adams administration will collaborate across agencies and sectors to develop and implement targeted programs amplify opportunities, and facilitate outreach to excluded communities to advance gender equity and diversity in the workplace. Mayor Adams also recently advocated for important policies at the state level to support working women, including an expanded earned income tax credit and critical childcare support, and got them. This means EITC secured an increase to the program for the first time in 20 years, adding an additional city investment of $250 million into the program, resulting in 800,000 working New Yorkers who will now have extra money in their pockets. Under the city's expansion of the EITC, a single parent with one child with an income of $14,750 will see their benefit increase from $181 to $905, a 400% increase. And under the state supplemental payment, the EITC benefit will increase from $1,085 to $1,357 for the individual. For a married couple with 2 kids and an income of $25,000, their benefit will increase from $299 to $897 under the city payment, a 200% increase. Under the state one-time supplemental payment, their benefit will increase from $1,794 to $2,243. I'll also note that New Yorkers can access the EITC through filing their taxes, and new free tax preparation is available for most families with low and moderate income across the 5 boroughs. In just the first part of the 2022 tax season, which kicked off in January, it's now closed, New York City Free Tax Prep has helped New Yorkers file more than 41,000 tax returns, save more than $5 million in fee. Following Mayor Eric Adams' advocacy, the state also acted and committed $4 billion in funding to New York City for childcare over 4 years. And we have also secured authorization for our tax incentives that will spur the private sector in creating 17,000 new childcare seats. It is this type of city-state partnership that will help us address the critical issues facing women and families today. This work builds on recent accomplishments, including the passage of the salary history ban, paid sick and safe leave, a paid family leave policy, and the package of laws known as the Stop Sexual Harassment in New York City Act, which all combine to create safer workplaces, build greater economic opportunities for New Yorkers, and further advance gender equity in our city. The Adams administration is committed to supporting women, transgender, gender non-binary, and non-conforming people in the workplace, and identifying opportunities for greater support in construction and beyond. Many occupations in the United States are marked by disproportionate representation along gender, race, and ethnic lines. Labor market segregations lead to inequity by crowding women and people of color into occupations that offer lower compensation, fewer benefits, and less economic security. Many historical, social, and institutional factors create and perpetuate this segregation, including racism, sexism, gender role stereotypes, and biases within the K-12 and post-secondary education systems. According to the Institute for Women's Policy Research, women make up 4% of workers in construction occupations. The lack of gender equity in the trades is just one example of occupational segregation across the labor market. Yet trade jobs offer enormous opportunities for women, transgender, gender non-binary, and gender non-conforming people, and those who identify as LGBTQ+. Trade jobs are often high-paying with good benefits and union representation, and are avenues to economic mobility and security without having to take on the heavy burden of student debt, which is disproportionately held by women. Research from the Center for American Progress found that construction workers, especially those in a union, were better compensated than workers in women-dominated occupations with similar educational requirements, such as childcare workers, service workers, and administrative assistants. Another advantage of working in construction in particular is a relatively low gender pay gap. Women who can access construction jobs earn 94.3% of what men earn in the same work. Despite the appeal of trade jobs, there are several challenges that prevent women and TGNB&C people from obtaining and maintaining employment in the trades. These well-documented barriers include racial and gender discrimination, societal norms such as gender role stereotypes, cultural bias, lack of access to childcare and pregnancy accommodations, and negative and unsafe work environments, among others. In a recent national survey of over 2,500 tradeswomen, 44% said that they had seriously considered leaving their industry, citing lack of respect and discrimination. Others mentioned lack of pregnancy accommodations as a factor, and workers with young children cited difficulties finding childcare as another potential reason to leave the trades. Increasing gender equity and diversity in the trades requires addressing these barriers so that women and TGNB&C workers feel welcome to join and remain in the trades, which offer a stable and lucrative career path with positive implications for gender and wage equity. Achieving gender equity will also require unclogging the pipeline to leadership that keeps women and TGNB&C workers from advancing to higher position in the trades. This work would benefit greatly from more research and data on women and TGNB&C trade workers in New York City to identify and problem solve around specific inequities. We thank Chair Caban, De La Rosa, and Farias, and Councilmember Moya for their leadership on this issue. The challenges around achieving gender equity in the trades extends to women's employment across the labor market, which was severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Millions of women, particularly women of color, sustained job losses or chose to leave the workforce entirely to manage their responsibilities, like caregiving. Yet opportunities lie ahead as New York City begins to recover. We can and will rebuild and refocus on supporting women and TGNB&C New Yorkers in the workforce. The Adams administration is committed to ensuring a gender equitable recovery that promotes gender diversity in all areas of employment, including and especially in the trades. We support the intent of Intro 179, which proposes to establish a task force to establish the role of women in the trades and non-traditional workplaces. And we look forward to discussing this idea with you further. Thank you for having us here today. We're happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Executive Director Ebanks. I will now turn it over to Chair De La Rosa for questions.
Thank you, Bianca. Speaker Adams is coming right back to ask some questions of the panel. Do we want to continue with the next testimony and until she returns?
So yeah, basically at this portion, I'm going to now turn it over to yourself, Carmen, and also to, after your questions, then Chair Caban and Chair Faris will be given an opportunity to ask questions of the administration. As soon as the speaker comes back on, then we can pivot and open up the floor to her if she has any questions for the admin, and then we will turn to council members for the three committees for their questions. Panelists, please stay unmuted if possible during this question and answer period. Thank you again, Executive Director Ebanks, and Chair De La Rosa, please begin when ready.
Great, thank you so much. So I have a question about some of the project labor agreements that in 2020 there was a city-wide renovation of project labor agreements that states that apprenticeship programs jointly sponsored by local unions and the Building Trades Employers Association will reserve 15% of the annual apprenticeship slots for women graduates of new. I want to ask to see if you can respond as to how was the 15% agreed to? How did we land on 15%? And in 2021, how many apprenticeships did this translate into on the construction job sites?
Thank you so much, Chair De La Rosa, for that question. And my colleague, Deputy Commissioner Laura Gibson, my apologies, Economic Development Advisor Laura Gibson at the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development will respond to that question.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Chairs Caban, De La Rosa, and Farias. Grateful for the opportunity to be here. So the PLA goals were made collaboratively with the Building and Construction Trades Council and the pre-apprenticeship training programs that fall under the Apprenticeship Readiness Collective. These training programs are referred to specifically because they have long-standing relationships with the unions and have worked historically to reserve a negotiated number of slots that's appropriate for graduates from their programs. So they use that process and the historical data to come to those percentages. As far as the 2021 apprentices, that's something that's very important to us and a good question, but I need to get back to you with the data.
Okay, thank you. We would appreciate that. I also have a question specifically about the different agencies and the PLAs that exist within those. Presently, HPD and EDC are not party to a PLA with the city, resulting in lax procurement practices that lead to worker exploitation on affordable housing projects and neighborhood rezonings. Why is the city opposed to extending a PLA to other agencies to implement standards on vital city development projects?
Okay, yes, I can take that as well. Thank you. I mean, this is a larger conversation that I think requires including our partners at HPD and other stakeholders, and we'd love to get back to you on that and start having that conversation.
Okay. And then another question around PLAs. Unions are required to provide the City Office of Workforce Development reports on 1, apprenticeship training and recruitment notifications and minimum qualifications, 2, apprenticeship training programs, affirmative action plans within 30 days of submission to the New York State Department of Labor. Can the city share some of those reports with the City Council?
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure. That's something I need to talk. We put those goals together collaboratively with the Building and Construction Trades Council, so I don't feel like I'm able to answer that now, but we can definitely get back to you on it.
Okay, and then asking about the PLA, which states that unions will prioritize the referral of workers from zip codes where at least 15% of the population lives below the federal poverty level, or are NYCHA residents, aiming to reach the overall goal of at least 30% for all hours worked under the PLA projects are logged by workers from these zip codes. Can you describe how the prioritization recruitment for these zip codes is going, and are women being also targeted within these populations for recruitment?
Definitely. So we know that unions, many of the local unions that are party to the PLA have hiring halls and establish out of work lists where workers are referred by the union to specific jobs through contractor requests. So those typically include zip codes, and as such, the union's committed to leveraging these systems to prioritize workers from the targeted zip codes. We're also looking at community hiring legislation at the state level so that the city can increase its ability to refer workers from the zip codes, and hope to have more tangible results with that.
Great. And then my last question, then I'll turn it over to Chair Caban, is have the dedicated slots across demographic groups been an effective way to diversify, in your opinion or in your experience?
Yeah, I think I would say, in my opinion, the pre-apprenticeship training programs and our partnership there and the targeted recruitment they do, and just the years of established relationships with the unions is the greatest asset to diversifying the trades. And we've had great success there, and that's where the city really partners with the recruitment process, is through funding those programs.
Yeah, we know that programs like NEW are showing success and a model for how to enter that pathway to career. Are there any enforcement mechanisms if the goals that have been set are not met? And if so, who has oversight? Just to have more clarity on how the industry works, who has oversight over the enforcement of the goals that have been set out in the PLAs?
Okay, thank you. Currently, there's no penalties, but the PLA is written so that we will continue to work together with the Building and Construction Trades Council and make changes as appropriate. So it's flexible and has been a very collaborative, positive experience so far. Does not include penalties.
So you're saying that this would come out of the Mayor's Office for Workforce Development, or?
Yes, it's the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, the Building Construction Trades Council, and the pre-apprenticeship programs under ARC, all working together to meet the goals.
Great. Thank you so much for answering this first round of questions. I'm going to pass it over to Chair Caban.
Thank you. I just want to check in for a moment. Has the Speaker Adams joined us again, or should I go ahead and continue?
You may continue, Chair Caban. She's not back on yet. We'll let you know.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with some questions around the barriers to entry and retention. Careers in the trade have the potential to provide obviously excellent opportunities for unemployed and underemployed women and gender expansive folks. But there are numerous barriers to entry, including childcare challenges, transportation struggles, and obviously a male-dominated workforce. So my first question is, what does the city view as the largest barriers to recruiting women to work in the construction industry? I know that it was touched on in the testimony, but I'd like to dig a little deeper there.
I think what we see, Chair Caban, and thank you for this question, that it's really the combined effect of these barriers, right? I don't know if we see one particular area dominating. We have the history, we have the social barriers, we have, the cultural bias, the predisposition to educate into tracks that require a bachelor's or a master's degree. And so there's this need to kind of shift the way we operate as a society in general to value equally the disparate approaches to career development, right? And I think that's probably, the greatest challenge here is how do we shift the preconceived and rooted notions, and needless to say, how do we disrupt discrimination in general, right? Racism, sexism, etc. So I think we're looking at a combined impact and then working on, because if you think of the multiplicity of people who enter, women, LGBTQ individuals, transgender individuals, at any one point, they're faced with discrimination, right? And so I think we're mindful of that as we do this work, to operating at the intersection of identities and operating at the intersections of the multiple forms of discrimination that exist.
And to your point, or when you flagged sort of the culture bias, what does dismantling those historical biases look like in practice? Like what is being done, and also in your view, what more could be done?
I think I'd like to talk about the importance of training here, right? The importance of education and public engagement, so the importance of increasing awareness of the availabilities of these jobs and the fact that individuals, women, LGBTQ and transgender, gender non-binary individuals can participate. So it's the issue of representation and how do we communicate? And I think that's why we're really proud of the collaborative and multi-pronged approach to outreach that we have. So, you know, one of the things we do is communicate the availabilities of the job and these career paths. And so you will find collaboration with nonprofit partners in terms of outreach in communities of high needs. You'll find postings on our bus sheds, things like that. And then you'll find heavy use of social media throughout all of our city agencies to promote opportunities. And so I think that outreach piece is key. I think entering into our schools and showing the range of options. And then in EDC, we have a program, women.nyc, which elevates various entry points into career and also how women can pivot in careers to increase higher earnings and to increase earnings. And so I think we're using those approaches in order to disrupt. And then I want to say it's how do we also make the workplace safer, right? And we have these robust laws that stop sexual harassment, that are clear on the path to complaint. We have a robust enforcement process within the city's Commission on Human Rights. And so all of these things work together to disrupt, so we try to educate, increase awareness, and disrupt negative behavior and discrimination as it exists.
So what and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard is sort of like, you know, making it clear to folks that there is this on-ramp so that we are achieving, you know, these diversity goals, and then also these really strong enforcement processes. Is there what seems like a gap, and I'm hoping you can tell me if it's being filled or if there's more to be done there, is like the actual work with folks who may have been in this industry for a long time, have been part of the culture, hold these biases, and like the proactive efforts to start dismantling those within the folks that are already in the community.
I would say that certainly, you know, we have as a city strong requirements around training for unconscious bias, implicit bias, all of these things. We would have to look to our partners and unions and employers to determine the degree to which they're actually implementing these efforts. So we, and the holding them accountable to that is that strong infrastructure. I'm sure work is being done, and I would defer to my colleagues if they have anything to add, but we clearly know that more can be done. And we want to ensure that we build, you know, that the efforts we make are consistent and ongoing and that they're sustained. I think that's really important. I think we're building a system, and it will be important to our recovery to ensure that this system is one that can be sustained.
Thank you. And I know we have 3 committees here, so I don't want to take up too much time with my questions, but would love if y'all would be able to provide any information on some of like the trainings that we're seeing that combat just that. A national survey of tradeswomen found that most women learned about the trades from a family member or a friend, while few learned about them through school or job centers. And so you just hit on some of this about that outreach. But again, I just want some more detail on exactly how it's operationalized. Like, what is the system that we are using to engage and ensure that more gender diverse people are learning about those opportunities presented by the trades? I know you mentioned schools a little bit. And if you could describe any efforts the city has made to attract young people, including through those technical high schools, and describe any work that the city is doing to track the involvement of or increase recruitment of young LGBTQ plus folks into the trades. And again, here, I'm just looking for a little bit more specificity on what it looks like.
I would like to turn to, I think it's Deputy Commissioner Lucinda Glover. I think she has some very specifics there, but also add that we can, in follow-up to this, in addition to what Deputy Commissioner Glover will talk about, we have some opportunity to provide greater detail post-hearing. Lucinda.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair, for the question. My answer's in relation to the Workforce One Career Center system. and our associated training. So we work very closely with a network of over 300 community partners to get the word out about our career services and our training opportunities. That includes community partners who are dedicating to serving the LGBTQ+ community, partners who are dedicated to serving women and youth. We also have a Workforce One Career Centre in West Farms, which is dedicated to serving young people. We do outreach through our sister city agencies, such as the Human Resources Administration, Department of Education, and NYC Housing Authority. We do targeted marketing through social media. We use the Link NYC stations and bus shelters. And we also do targeted sourcing from our Workforce One customer database. And as announced in the Blueprint for Economic Reform, we are also out and about in the community with SBS's mobile operating unit, where we're able to provide career services to people through that unit. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to shift a little bit. The construction industry has notoriously high worker turnover rates. In a national survey of tradeswomen conducted by the Institute for Women's Policy Research, 44% of tradeswomen surveyed said that they would strongly consider exiting the industry for various reasons. Again, some of the things that were pointed out in the earlier testimony, including but not limited to childcare, harassment, and lack of opportunities for advancement. What supports and resources are available to help retain women and LGBTQ+ folks, apprentices, once they enter the construction workforce? And two sort of other pieces to that question is, can you describe any efforts or programs and resources focused explicitly on retaining LGBTQ+ New Yorkers, and describe any efforts to support working mothers in the trades or those with families who struggle with affordable, reliable healthcare? And I think it's really just anecdotally from talking to workers, particularly women in construction, that it seemed like there were lots of opportunities or things to access in terms of getting a foot in the door, but retainment was a real issue.
I think this is where we would like to continue to do more data gathering, but we know that we also provide myriad programs. The issue is such as, we have Metro Health Plus, which helps folks access healthcare, affordable healthcare. We have certainly our childcare programs, and so one of the things we need to wrestle with is, are we connecting workers to these resources readily? And so we continue to look at this and continue to find ways to improve. But I want to ask my colleagues at EDC, SBS, and Workforce if they want to add anything in terms of their specific experiences in this area.
And in addition to that, if there are things that don't exist, but y'all feel like, hey, these are things that we could do or should look into trying to do.
Thank you for your question, Chair Kavan, and thank you for having us here today. We're really excited to talk about these issues, especially barriers that women are facing in the trades. So at EDC, we really work directly with pre-apprenticeship and direct entry programs. We're piloting a program with both the non-traditional employment for women and with P2A to link and provide female job seekers that are interested in union trades with access to training and then jobs on our union construction projects. But as far as retention, I mean, these are processes that are really led by the unions and their apprenticeship programs. So we are, as Laura previously mentioned, we want to really work in partnership with the unions and in partnerships with these direct entry programs to add additional wraparound services that can support retention in the trades.
Well, thank you. I just also want to briefly acknowledge that Councilmember Gennaro has joined us. Okay. And just a few more questions. What is the city doing specifically to address sexual harassment and gender discrimination in the construction trades?
Thank you so much for that question. I just want to refer to my testimony where we talked about a really, the Stop Sexual Harassment Act, which was first passed in 2018, and Stop Sexual Harassment in New York City Act, which was these packages of laws that really focus on training, but also on the opportunity for complaint, the protection of workers from retaliation, and increasing opportunity, information about how to make the workplace safe, and also the opportunity for reasonable accommodations. I think we have been very committed as a city, and will continue, and the Adams administration continues to do so, to recognize the importance of safety, the importance in the workplace, the importance of really being free from discrimination and free from any form of violence within the workplace. So we continue, and as we build out the blueprint, it's important that the workplace be safe so that people can remain in jobs and build greater economic security in our city. So I want to point to the base of laws that we have, where we are held accountable through the enforcement processes at the Commission on Human Rights as well. And that applies across all sectors. And so with that, I don't know if my colleagues have anything else to add. But I have to reiterate that New York City is deeply committed to ensuring safety for all its workers, particularly women and LGBTQ individuals. It is clearly unacceptable for an individual to choose between their safety and their economic viability. And so our laws center on ensuring that we break that connection and ensure that people not only are safe in at the entry level position, but safe throughout the workforce and can build careers and economic independence. But I turn to my colleagues for any more they want to add.
No, I mean, at EDC, we also require all of our staff and our project management to undergo specific training, and we have a very specific and enforceable process to report anything that happens, not just at EDC, but on our work sites as well.
Well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Speaker Adams to ask some questions.
Thank you so much, Chair Caban, and thank you to all of our colleagues who are doing a great job this morning in hosting us this morning, Chair De La Rosa and Chair Farias as well. Executive Director Ebanks, it's great to see you this morning, and I am really heartened by the fact that you have mentioned the Stop Sexual Harassment in New York City Act, one of the bills I'm very proud to have championed in that package, one of the very first in 2018, that a whole host of women in this council, only 11 strong then, felt very emphatic about making sure that we gave those bills the light of day. So I'm very heartened to hear you continue to reference this package of bills, which we carried so proudly back in 2018. So thank you for that. Thank you for making us aware that this legislation actually does have teeth, and it has legs, and it matters to the women in the workplace. So thank you very much for that. My first question is, it might have been asked, I apologize, I had to jump off to give remarks in another event. Does the city actually work with the trades to encourage recruitment of women into apprenticeship programs?
Speaker Adams, if I may, I just want to thank you for your leadership in passing those bills. We were at a really critical time. I think it was just at the emergence of the Me Too movement, and New York City really stepped up and became a leadership leader in this country with the passage of these bills. I must say, just a moment of personal privilege here. I am so grateful to be testifying before this city council with the most women we have ever had, and 31, and seeing that we're speaking with 3 committee chairs who are all women. It is most exciting and long time coming, and we do look forward to working with you, in continuing your progress and ensuring that this progress can be sustained. So regarding your question about working with the unions and retention, I am just going to turn to my colleagues. Maybe Laura Gibson from Workforce Development would want to start. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question, Speaker Adams. We did work collaboratively with the BCTC and the pre-apprenticeship training programs to set goals and the new citywide PLAs for women. We also target union apprenticeships through new and work collaboratively with them to make sure women are being given the opportunity to join the trades. I think my colleagues may have more specifics about their experience working with those signature programs. I can pass it over.
Can you speak specific? Can anyone speak specifically to the question of apprenticeship?
Yeah, I can. So at EDC, we are piloting a new program where we utilize our capital projects as opportunities to create pathways for local women to join construction unions. And we do that really in partnership with the pre-apprenticeship and the direct entry programs, right? So we work hand in hand with MU and with Pathways to Apprenticeship to really create these signature training programs that link local women job seekers. And one project that we have done that is in Coney Island, in the Coney Island Hospital, which is a Sandra recovery project. We received a lot of interest from women in this project, and we were able to fund with Councilmember Traeger a local training program with P2A, and this project also signed on to new signature program, which is creating not just linking women to training, but also once they have gone through the training and entered a specific union, they are being called back on the site. So out of, we have hired about 101 women, ranging in specific trades such as like electricians, operating engineers, carpenters, painters, plumbers, iron workers, and general labor. I was actually there a couple of weeks ago doing a job site tour and was able to see women very hands-on and finishing the project. And just to let you know, we have about 100 women on site every day out of 400 local laborers there.
That's really encouraging. So it sounds like the city is actually doing its part in encouraging women to join the trades and providing them with assistance that they need to ensure that they actually stay in the trade. Yes,
I know that the administration has a very strong commitment to providing wraparound services to women and developing programming. I know we're doing a lot, and there's definitely more that we can do in that space. But I know that there's other projects that are coming up, especially the Public Health Lab project that will also have specific goals with you to make sure that local women can get access to these jobs.
That's great. Does the city actually track how long women stay employed in the trades? there any tracking?
Laura.
Thank you for the question. No, we don't have we don't have that data as the city on how long women are retained in the trades. It's not readily available to us. A good question.
Okay. You know, a few weeks ago, I made a speech at the Association for a Better New York at APNY, calling for additional CTE programs and more partnerships with businesses to expand opportunities for CTE graduates. Are there CTE programs that are tailored for women to enter into the trades upon their graduation?
Not that yeah. Go ahead, please.
We can certainly get additional data, but prior to joining the city, I'll just share, I sat on the CTE advisory board, which is housed within Department of Education. And I know that it's really an extremely robust program. And we would really need to follow up with the Department of Education and the work that continues to be done there. But they certainly do have strong connections to non-traditional work and to construction trades as well. So we will bring that information back to you.
Okay, I would appreciate that. I think it's really important for us to know what trades would be included, you know, in the CTE programs. And my last question, if there's an answer, if not, then we need a follow-up to this one also. Are there gender disparities in job placements in the trades for CTE program graduates?
Speaker Adams, if you would permit us, we will follow up with that question as well post-hearing. Thank you so much for asking it.
All right, thank you very much, and we'd appreciate that follow-up. Thank you once again. I may have more questions. Thank you very much, Executive Director, your team, and of course, my colleagues who are 3 women strong chairing this joint hearing this morning. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker Adams. And I do have a few more questions, but I actually would like to turn it over to Chair Farias and then also give committee members an opportunity to ask questions, and I'll circle back around. So I'll hand it over at this point.
Thank you so much, Chair Caban and Speaker Adams. This, I know it's already so the city has invested in several initiatives aimed at addressing gender inequity in the workforce, including addressing pay equity, combating harassment, and supplying resources for people and parents in the workplace. However, women currently make up only 10% of the city's construction industry. I know we've heard a few examples of this already, but what is the city doing specifically to support women and LGBTQ plus New Yorkers in the trades? And can we get specific examples of this work? For example, does EDC work with other agencies like SBS or Women's Out NYC on workforce development initiatives related to women in trades? I heard working with New already and in different pathways, but are there any specific current or ongoing projects where we're seeing an example of this work?
As Assistant Vice President Claudia Flores would take that question.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, so through Hire NYC, we work hand in hand with SBS to really recruit locally and work with, you know, they have over 300 partnerships with local workforce development organizations, and we really leveraged their expertise in that area. So I would really like Deputy Commissioner Lucinda Glover to go over that.
Thank you for the question. So through Hire NYC, 48% of people who have been hired since the inception of that program are women.
Okay. Are there any specific agencies outside of the EDC that are specifically working to support doing this work for women or for LGBTQ plus members? Or any projects that we have going on in the city?
HPD is also a part of the Hire NYC program.
Okay. And does the city partner with the state in any of these initiatives? And if so, how?
In terms of workforce at SBS, we work in close partnership with our state counterparts. A number of our Workforce One career centers are co-located with the state's workforce centers. We work hand in glove with them and talk to them on a weekly basis to coordinate our services.
And in terms of this coordination with the state, are most of these supports or opportunities, are they mostly with the Department of Labor apprenticeship area, or are they public-private partnership projects in the city?
I don't feel that I'm able to speak to the state's opportunities right now, but if you would like more information, I can get that for you.
Well, I mean, I'm asking in terms of the opportunities that we're working with for women and LGBTQ plus members, for Black and brown men. You know, are we specifically reliant on like the Department of Labor apprenticeship opportunities that are there, or are these larger projects that we're working on with the state?
Sure. So the Department of Small Business Services has its own Apprentice NYC program, which we recruit through the Workforce One Career Center system. I'm proud to say that Workforce One, 50% of our customers that we serve every year are women, and we use that system to recruit for our apprenticeship programs. So under Apprentice NYC, there are 4 programs that we've stood up. There's a CNC apprenticeship program, there's a line cook apprenticeship, nurse residency, and tech engineers. So they're all the programs that we use the Workforce One system to recruit for.
Okay. So I do want to talk a little bit about outreach being done to recruit. I'm hearing SBS, Apprenticeship, NYC, and Workforce One centers. I think most of us on this call can agree Workforce One centers are not as available to a lot of our community members, nor are they doing direct outreach. So can you detail where the city advertises apprenticeship opportunities and how they're specifically targeting women and LGBTQ members in their outreach efforts? And also if there's any specific outreach being done for non-binary and transgender individuals in the city to participate and proactively seek work.
Sure. Whenever we're recruiting, we market those opportunities through a variety of means, including social media, the Link NYC stations, bus shelters. We work closely with our over 300 community partners, which includes partners who are dedicated to serving women and the LGBTQ plus community. So we let our network of community partners know when we're recruiting for trainings and specific job opportunities. We also established a website called Career Discovery NYC in August of 2020. And that provides a lot of fantastic information on what someone can expect in one of our trainings, including our apprenticeships. And that information provides an option to sign up to be notified when recruitment for a particular training commences.
Okay, and just specifically on how we're aggregating all of this data and kind of looking at it, do you know if we are saying, you know, I applied for this job because I saw it on the bus shelter, or I got it from my local CBO? And I ask because my district particularly lacks bus shelters, for example, and also headquartered CBOs. So we aren't necessarily, my community members specifically aren't necessarily being targeted for these opportunities. So are we overlapping that data and kind of saying like, oh, this community lacks outreach, how are we making efforts to get there?
We thank you for the question, Chair, and we really are always looking to enhance our outreach. So I'd be very happy to work with you to make sure that we're getting into your community. We do ask our customers to let us know how they hear about our services, and find that a recommendation from a family, a friend, or colleague is one of the most common ways that they hear about us, and then a recommendation from a community partner or online searches are the other ways. But as I said, we really do want people to know about our services. So I'd be very happy to work with you on further outreach.
Be great. I'm sure there's a lot of other communities that also don't have these things. So.
Any council members on the call?
And then my last question, I have more specifically on Higher NYC in a little bit, but we do have members that have been patiently waiting to ask. The last question I'll end with. In 2017, the de Blasio administration released the New York Works program, creating Good Jobs Plan. The plan set goal of using direct city action to pour 100,000 new good-paying jobs, paying at least $50,000 annually over the next 10 years. Of those new good-paying jobs, the plan projected 240,000 new jobs that would be created in the construction industry through the city's investment in construction for commercial, residential, transportation, and other infrastructure projects throughout the city. As of 2022, how many of the new jobs were created in the construction industry through the plan?
So I can take that. And thank you for that question, Chair Farias. So when New York Works was created, New York was at record levels of employment, and we were looking to lean into growth areas of the economy. But when COVID hit, the economy changed in the city, and the economic impact of COVID really impeded our ability to continue in New York work. So it is still a priority for us to return to the levels of jobs pre-pandemic, and we are still pursuing some individual initiatives of the New York Works Plan, such as life sciences and offshore wind. But this is really being done through the blueprint for a New York Economic Recovery Plan that was announced a few weeks ago. So we are addressing these issues in a way that's more responsive really to the current climate and the current strategy of the Adams administration. So again, we want to return to pre-pandemic levels, but we have to do so by building a stronger and more equitable economy for the future.
So do we not have numbers on how many jobs we're seeing throughout?
Nope, at this time, we don't. And because the last update was in the thick of the pandemic, we've really shifted to track more relevant metrics such as businesses closed and jobs lost. So we, obviously the pandemic really changed.
Sure. Well, still being done during the pandemic. Granted, it was construction that was necessary. Projects had to apply for credentials to continue on their work. Were none of the projects that EDC was implementing through this necessary work to be done during the pandemic, that we could have created new construction jobs?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
We were still allowed as a city to perform construction throughout the pandemic, especially if it was deemed necessary or, critical to moving certain community project forward. Were none of the projects that were done through EDC deemed under that permissions, under the emergency creation that we had to continue construction work to provide jobs?
Yeah. I mean, yes, the city continued to push forward in certain construction jobs during the pandemic. And the people that were on site were, our goal was to make sure that those people were rehired on those jobs. And if you want specific data, we can definitely look back and come back and continue the conversation.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have some data from the past that y'all have presented. I'll look it up in the time being when people are asking, just so I could be a little bit more specific if I can when I come back with my line of questioning. Thank you so much, Claudia. And I will.
Thank you so much, Chair Fadis. I'm now going to open it up to council members for questions. I will now call on council members in the order they have used the Zoom raise hand function. If you would like to ask a question, council members, and you have not yet used the Zoom raise hand function, please do so now. Council members, please keep your questions to 5 minutes. The Sergeant at Arms will keep a timer and will let you know when your time is up. You should begin once I have called on you and the Sergeant has announced that you may begin. First, we'll be hearing from Councilmember Dinowitz, followed by Councilmember Menon, and then Councilmember Gutierrez. Councilmember Dinowitz, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Thanks, Bianca. Thank you, Chairs Caban, De La Rosa, and Farias. So I want to follow up on Councilmember Farias's questions about recruitment. So it sounds like there is work being done to provide the support and the training and the equity, but when I hear recruitment, when I hear bus shelters and online advertisement, it sounds in many cases like it's up to the worker, the person looking for a job, to do outreach to utilize the services you provide. And you know, a lot of someone's interest in a profession may come from their experiences and the experiences of those around them. In other words, if most people in this line of work are men, you may not, a woman may not see herself in this line of work. So I'm interested to know a little more about the recruitment efforts you're doing to ensure that access is equitable and everyone can see themselves in the job. Specifically, what agreements you have with city agencies like the Department of Education, where a lot of work can be done going directly into schools and recruiting. What agreements you have with CUNY, or what work is being done with Access VR?
Clearly.
Thank you. I can take
Go ahead,
that.
Lucinda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dinowitz. So in addition to the bus shelters, Link NYC, marketing ads, social media, we really leverage our community partner network of over 300 organizations who are in the communities and engaging with community members. And we are also getting out into the community using the mobile operating unit, which is SDS's unit, where we can provide services at any location. In terms of DOE, we are co-located with District 79 at West Farms Center, which makes it easy for young people who are looking for work and also looking to complete high school to navigate both of our services. And we do a lot of trainings with CUNY as well. And we are always open to more opportunities to conduct our outreach if there is something particular that you're looking for.
Well, yeah, I mean, District 79 is just one, citywide program. It sounds you're on one of the campuses. What I'm asking is if, schools have career fairs, right? And we have administration, I think, and a chancellor, I think, who is in many ways career oriented, or is putting a little more weight behind that. In other words, students at DOE schools, at our public schools, I believe need to know that this is an avenue for them, particularly our women, and the proactive outreach, I think, needs to be done. And I think it's wonderful that you're at the CBOs. In many cases, those are people who have already gone out there and are looking for work. But again, I think that they need to see themselves in these jobs and need the outreach done to them. And that's at our public schools where most of our students are, not including the District 79, but our regular district schools, including our CUNYs. You mentioned something about CUNY, but I'm interested in my 36 seconds to know more about that CUNY recruitment. And I mentioned Access VR, which is our students with disabilities often go into this program to get the vocational training if you're working with them or recruiting from there.
Thank you. So through our funding restrictions, the Workforce One Career Center system is actually only able to work with people who are 18 and over. So I think some of your concerns really fit into the remit of my colleagues at Department of Youth, and I'd be happy to share those with you. We work with CUNY, various CUNY schools on a number of our training programs in healthcare and tech, and we can provide you with more information about those programs. And Workforce One Career Center system also leverages Access VR.
Yeah, would love to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dinowitz. Next, we'll hear from Councilmember Menon, followed by Councilmember Gutierrez. Councilmember Menon, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Thank you so much. I really want to thank the four chairs for this incredibly important hearing. And I want to follow up on something that Councilmember Farias mentioned. And it's something that I heard from EDC that I personally found shocking. And so I want to make sure I heard it correctly and ask some follow-up questions. So I want to talk about when Mayor de Blasio announced in 2017 the jobs plan to create 100,000 good paying jobs. I remember this event. I was at that announcement. And did I hear EDC correctly in saying that you don't have any data on if any new jobs were created?
So as you know, COVID really resulted in significant job losses for New York City. And we are still several 100,000 jobs short of pre-pandemic employment levels. And we are trying to return to those levels.
I just want to interrupt because this is sort of the same answer that you gave to the Councilmember Farias, and I really want to drill down on this because we're all familiar with the job loss, unfortunately, that New York faces in this COVID reality. But this program was announced in 2017, so you're telling me that there was no jobs created for the rest of 2017, 2018, 2019, and the beginning of 2020. And I'm looking at the press release that Mayor de Blasio announced then. It says that the plan reflects $1.1 billion in currently allocated city spending and a further $250 million that the administration will apply in its November and January updates. And then further, it states the administration will report on the plan's progress annually. So what has happened the last couple of years with this plan?
Oh, we made an update in our data publications in 2020, and that's really the last data that we published, and we have not done an update since then.
So what happened to the $250 million that the administration advertised that it was putting into this?
I'm sorry, I don't have, I mean, it was used to really create jobs. I just don't have the data at my disposal right now.
I mean, can I then request to the four chairs that we immediately follow up on this? This is $250 million that the de Blasio administration said that they were allocating to create new jobs. We have no information whatsoever that's being provided today on a single job that was created by this plan.
We'd be happy to do our research and get back to you on the data. I'm sorry that it's missing at this moment, but we will bring that information to you and follow up. Councilmember.
Yeah, Just a quick question, Councilmember Menon, do you still have line of questioning? I don't want to interject while you're still doing line of questioning.
No, I just find this shocking, to be honest. I just cannot believe that there was absolutely zero answers by EDC on this. This plan was touted as creating over 100,000 good paying jobs. And there's doesn't seem to be a single job that was actually created, nor can EDC account for where this money went.
No, 100%. It's actually why I stopped my line of questioning to go get this actual data that you pulled up. So thank you for bringing it up. You know, it is 1.1 billion to date, over 250 million in its initial between 2017 and 2018 that have been already invested into this project that's supposed to be at least giving some projected numbers or data. I do have in front of me the projected number of good jobs that were supposed to be actually created was 35,875, but we received at that point in 2019, only 3,725 jobs were actually created. And out of those 3,072, about 82% of those were defined as actual good paying jobs. And so I hear the admin right now in EDC on not having the data in front of them. It was the purpose of my initial hearing with Councilmember and Chair Brewer a couple weeks ago, and really wanting to be able to go into this and understand why we are at this given point post-pandemic, though this was beginning pre-pandemic, still not being able to create or find the data on the jobs that were created. And now for me, what seems a bit worrisome is this is now getting looped into the blueprint in a new administration with a new mayor that has to probably invest more money into this. And we still don't know where the investment actually went to and how much was it in terms of benefiting the lives of our New Yorkers in each of our communities. What I will say is, you know, we are behind on timeline on a lot of these job catalysts that were committed, like CUNY Tech, Cyber NYC, Blockchain Center, NYC Tech Talent Pipeline, and Apprentice NYC. Apprentice NYC was supposed to be done by 2020. That seems completed, but behind on the jobs, the projected jobs and committed jobs they were supposed to do, along with the NYC Talent Pipeline and Blockchain Center, I have no data for Blockchain, Cyber NYC, and CUNY, along with Future Works NYC. So whatever background we need to do and data finding would be really appreciated, because we do want to make sure going forward with the blueprint that we're putting the investments in the right places, and it's actually going to benefit local New Yorkers and young people in our city that require opportunity now and being hit heavily and really need to focus on recovery. With that, I'll turn it back over to my colleagues who have questions as I gather the rest of the questions I have for our folks testifying this morning.
Thank you, Chair Fadis. Councilmember Menon, you didn't have any more questions for the admin. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to finish if you had any before moving on.
I do, thank you. I did have one more question, and that's on workforce development sites. How much money is being spent? I know the Deputy Commissioner talked a little bit about social media advertising, but how much money per year is being spent on advertising these workforce development sites? In what languages is the advertisements being disseminated? Could we get a specific overview of that, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Menon. Happy to provide that information to you. I don't have it to hand, but we'll get you how much we spend on marketing. And yes, we do marketing in multiple languages, and we'll provide that information too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Menon. I will now turn to Councilmember Gutierrez. You may begin when the sergeant starts the clock. Thank you.
Time starts now.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the chairs of all the committees for this joint hearing this morning on this super important issue. I also just wanted to double down on Councilmember Menon's question about language. So if you can share that information with everyone or all the members on today's hearing, that would be helpful. I have two questions. The first one is, what kind of support are workers, specifically the women workers, construction workers offered with regards to support for time off, not just for childcare, but for caregivers. A lot of the women are also taking care of parents, of elderly folks in their families. So what kind of support and what does that look like? As well as what kind of support is offered for any of the workers facing housing insecurities. That is the number one issue for the majority of folks in my district, all sorts of workers in my district. And so what accommodations are made, what levels of support are offered to any of the women in the industry that are experiencing issues in housing court or displacement. And then my last question is related to any new moms that are coming back to work to these construction jobs. I myself at the council find that opportunities for pumping is a challenge in my spaces. And so I'm very curious as to what infrastructures exist for moms returning to the workforce at construction site. I know there is a law, but oftentimes employers are skirting around implementing the law. And so I want to understand what that looks like for women coming back to construction jobs specifically, or any trade jobs. What levels of support is offered to them, and where are the shortcomings and what we can be doing to protect women coming back to work and ensuring that they can do this safely and in a dignified way.
Just want to underscore that as an administration, I think this was also borne out in the heavy advocacy the mayor did to support, childcare and caregiving, especially the childcare funds that we got and the support around EITC. We're just deeply invested in not just recruiting and ensuring that women and LGBTQ individuals have access to these non-traditional workspaces, but also that they're retained there. And so in addition to really advocating for additional resources, because we know we don't have enough, we want to make sure that we're in constant communication with the populations that we serve so that we can also create additional plans to enhance what we have. I'm just going to turn to my colleagues to see if they have any specific details. And if you all could just, I don't have a specific order. So please go, whomever.
Do we want to tackle the pumping question first? Because that might be a more direct answer.
The pumpkin question?
Yeah, what accommodations are provided to any women coming back to work that need dignified spaces to pump in? It is the law that I'm a council member, and I find myself not finding those spaces adequate or dignified in my spaces. And I'm in a pretty privileged position. So I'd like to understand what is the experience for women in trade, women coming back to work, what accommodations are made, and what is the plan where those spaces don't exist to ensure that they are provided for them.
I would just, you point out we have the law and the lactation rooms and the requirement that these spaces are set up, council member. The enforcement of which I don't have the answer to at this point. And I think that's one key element of this work. So let me go back to my colleagues at CCHR to see how we track enforcement and how we're able to, and the pace at which we're able to get employers to create the environment appropriate to respond to nursing people. I think that's a really key question. So at this point, I don't have the data, and we have to go back to our employers. And we'll talk with our colleagues across the city, who, especially in CCHR, and get some data for you on that process.
All right, I guess no one else has it. Well, I appreciate it. I'm hoping that at some point, some of the partners on the call can also respond to that. I can't be the only one with a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gutierrez. Next, we'll be hearing from Councilmember Stevens, followed by Councilmember Hanks. Councilmember Stevens, you may begin when the Sergeant at Arms starts the timer.
Time starts now.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or is it afternoon? It's something. Thank you, chairs, for putting this hearing on, and it's very important, and I'm learning a lot. And I wanted to just reinforce my I'm also uncomfortable about the creation of these new jobs and the lack of response to that. I think that it's important that when we're talking about initiatives and these things, that they are actually being followed through. And so I'm a little bit disappointed to hear that there's no real answers around where we are with that. But I just had a really quick question, because Executive Ebanks had stated about how there needs to be a shift in thinking in society around these jobs and things like that. My question is simply, what is being done around that shift, right? Because it's nice to acknowledge it, but what work are we doing to actually help with that shift in knowledge, and also to promote to young women and women of color and the LGBTQ community? Because I think one of my issues a lot of times is people don't know what they don't know, and sometimes these jobs don't even seem obtainable or real to them because they're not seeked or part of it. And so not necessarily around the recruitment efforts, what are doing to get people inspired to be a part of this workforce and be a part of this work?
Thank you for that question. And you know, you're 100% right. We really have to go out and engage. And one of our strategies has always been to go out into community, and I'd say across the administration. And I know that that will continue to be heightened and in the Adams administration. COVID notwithstanding, which has prevented a lot of in-person gathering, we've tried to leverage the technology and to hold webinars and to engage people, but we know the limitations of technology with the digital divide as well. So this is, I would think, an effort, an area where we have to do more going forward. We have acknowledged the gap. One of the things we did on COVID-19 and we at CGE was to develop a campaign called Show Up for Gender Equity. And it really talked about how do you show up for gender equity in your home, workplaces, at schools, etc. And we were wrestling with how do we make this work, which we consider pretty wonkish, more accessible to the everyday New Yorkers so that people are communicating about it and knowing how their behaviors can change. I think we've just touched the tip of the iceberg on this work, and we want to deepen it. And I think this hearing is also showing how, and what you're really getting at is representation, right? How do we show to excluded populations that they have a space and an opportunity to be employed and engaged in spaces that they have been excluded. And part of it is finding individuals who now exist and have done great work. So my short answer is that we have more to do in this area. You're absolutely right that we really need, as an administration, to take a leading edge here and reach out and connect with community directly. I think many of the efforts we make will then be informed by community, and we'll continue to improve and really grow. I must say that you only are seeing 4 of 70 agencies here. So we aren't able to give the full landscape of how people are connecting and sharing, you know, various workforce development and workforce engagement efforts across the city. We'll try to spend some time to do more of that and put that together in a really summary report for you.
And just lastly, my last question is just around a lot of times there's like a lot of entry level jobs where when we do these recruitments, that's what it looks like. But what does it look like for the mobility for people to actually be in management positions and positions of leadership? Because that is one of my biggest things where a lot of times we're saying that we're getting folks jobs or these things or these opportunities, but a lot of times it's low level. So what does it look like for mobility in these jobs, and how are you recruiting to have upward mobility or even starting at the management level?
We agree with you 100%, Councilmember Stevens, and this is what we refer to in our testimony, that we really have to do more work and research, that we have to care about the entire pipeline, that we want to make sure that somebody who enters can advance, and that leadership is at every level, that representation is at every level. And so that's something else we have to look at the work we do. We want to certainly infuse at the entry level, but then have, as you're pointing out, I think, have points of entry at all phases of the pipeline and of the career path. I would just say that's more work to be done. We don't have the answer now. And we know that we will put that as a to-do moving forward.
Thank you. I just think that is really important. And when we're thinking about that, we need to think about all levels and not just entry-level positions, because often people of color and women and minorities, as we know, typically are given the entry-level position, but not the management position. So thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stevens. We'll now hear from Councilmember Hanks. You may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you to all the chairs that put this really important hearing together. I really want to also thank my colleagues for asking such incredible questions. I had my hand raised and I put it down and raised again because we were all on the same page on this. All sounds really well and good, but how is it going to work in real time on the ground, and how are we going to get it done? So my question revolves around not so much recruitment, but how are we going to engage the criminal justice system? We have so many folks that are young women who are involved in the system that also need to be recruited and engaged so there can be pathways to and alternatives to incarceration. And how are we interacting with our criminal justice system and cure violence programs who may have young people who would be, young women who would be primed for this kind of jobs. And what are we doing to also engage that population?
Thank you. I can respond to that question. Thank you, Councilmember Hanks. So at the Department of Small Business Services, through our Workforce One Career Center system, we have a program called Employment Works, which is specifically targeted to people with a justice involvement in their background. So that's a 3-day workshop where we work with people to support them in their process of applying for a job and also determining what some good job opportunities might be for them at that point in time, and how to handle the conviction question and challenges like that. So it's a program that's delivered primarily through our Brooklyn and Bronx Workforce One career centers.
And not all boroughs, like Staten Island?
We work as one system, and those workshops are being delivered virtually at the moment due to COVID. So people from anywhere across the city are able to access those services virtually, but the staff who deliver them at the Brooklyn and Bronx centers.
Do you also, thank you very much for that. Do you have a plan to work with community courts and the court system that recruitment can be robust in these spaces? I mean, I think that, many of our young women or women, period, again, which my colleagues have been saying, is that how are we going to effectively get the word out and making sure that these interactions are meaningful and these we can get them connected and create a true and a real pipeline to these kinds of careers from all levels. So whether it's junior high school, which is, exposing our women to these kinds of career paths, but I think that the pipeline question definitely just needs to be a little bit more thought through in all avenues.
Sure, and we currently work very closely with the Department of Probation in terms of sourcing people.
Okay.
But would be happy to talk to you about additional outreach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hanks. I will give a moment for other council members. If you have questions for the administration, please use the Zoom raise hand function. I'm given a minute. If no other hands are raised, I'm going to turn it back to the chairs. Okay. Seeing as there are no other hands raised, I will turn it back to Chair Caban and Chair Faris for additional questions of the administration before we move on to public testimony. Chair Caban, you may begin.
Thank you so much. I want to briefly expand on Councilmember Gutierrez's line of questions. I know that she hit questions on the accessibility to lactation and some of the caregiving needs, but an additional question I have is, can you describe the efforts to explicitly support working mothers or parents whose children could not attend daycare or school due to the COVID-19, due to the pandemic?
Any of my colleagues have any response? Again, I would suggest that we need to do some research on that, Chair Caban. The system is larger than the representation we have here, so I am unable to say whether or not we had it, and so I want to make sure before giving a non-response.
Well, before I continue my questioning, I just want to echo my colleagues' disappointment in some of the lack of answers, just because we rely on the information provided here to be able to, introduce new legislation or figure out like where we've got to go harder on oversight or implementing some of these things. So it is a little bit frustrating, and we really, really would appreciate follow-up on a lot of the questions that have been left unanswered. And the last question that refers to maternity and childbearing is, what is the city doing to address the needs of pregnant people on job sites, including light duty while pregnant assignments?
We have made provisions by law. We need to better assess how our employers are implementing those laws, but the provisions are there, and there is recourse again through the Commission on Human Rights for complaints. Doesn't really help a woman who is pregnant as time moves on, baby gets delivered. So I know, and I really have to apologize for the lack of response, but we will look into this issue further. And I just want to provide you with a complete response instead of leaving you with the impression that nothing's being done. That's not accurate. And so I want to be able to give you a complete response. So we will follow up with this as well.
Thank you. We look forward to the follow-up. And then my last few questions are just pertaining to grievance processes. How are apprentices informed about their rights to file complaints on the job site? And specifically, like including rights as a pregnant person on the job? And then also, do you post information about additional outlets for support or resources for complaints, like the ability to submit a complaint through CCHR, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I will take a bit and speak to the best of my knowledge of the incredible work done with CCHR, but they have community convenings and processes regularly, some of which I don't doubt were limited because of the COVID pandemic. So they're always engaging community and communicating to individuals in community in multiple languages about the recourses they have. We have, again, incredible protections. And then with that, we have the enforcement arm at CCHR. That, again, is just one element of the work in order to protect our workers and to increase safety in the workplaces. There is indeed, I think, a heavy reliance on the virtual world, social media, our websites. A lot of information is posted, but we have all alluded to the digital divide and how that may not be accessible to all New Yorkers. We're working to increase the availability of this information, both in sort of what I used to call hard copy, as well as in the virtual space. What we're describing to you is an effort that's underway and is by no means perfect. So we want to partner with you to improve that. And the difficulty, we've had a heavy reliance pre-COVID on in-person contact, right? We need to figure out, and we welcome your partnership in how do we have this touch, this connectivity to community when a health pandemic declares that we need to be further away from each other. And I think that's a hurdle that we strive to respond to as best we can. But we know that it's problematic. And that's something I'm just saying, we would love partnership with the City Council. I don't want to also state that, forget our community partners in the nonprofit space and how very often many of them are our eyes and ears in order to promulgate and to provide these resources to New Yorkers.
And I know that there wasn't a response to this before, but something I would also like to know in direct connection to this is like the nature or the breadth of the language access and accessibility for folks.
It's a lot. Yeah, but we'll get you the data. It's of many languages, Chair Caban. I don't want to overstate the number. Lucinda, please.
Just jump in terms of information provided to apprentices. So for SBS, we provide all of our apprentices with information on their rights under the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. There's guidance on grievance procedures under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is the funding we receive for our programs. And we also provide them with information on how to request reasonable accommodations. We also have career or success coaches that help trainees navigate issues that they have during the program.
Thank you. I'd like to move into a specific question about sexual harassment. It's on job sites. It's a leading reason why women leave the construction industry. Could you provide specific information on the anti-harassment training that workers receive during their apprenticeship training? And can you describe the process of handling gender-based harassment complaints on the worksite? What are the consequences for substantiated complaints? Can you provide some examples of a conflict resolution an individual, their union, and a contractor might reach in response to a harassment complaint? Yeah, some of those pieces.
Okay. I will say that new workers need to be informed of their rights and go through the sexual harassment prevention training within 90 days of coming on board. And I just visited the CCHR website this morning to get some details. There is also on that website information about the complaint process, which includes, of course, reporting to supervisors, but also moving through the chain. And then all the way to the city through CCHR. It is certainly much more detailed than that. And I just don't want to misspeak. So again, I'm going to ask that you allow me to follow up with a response, a more complete response. I don't know if my colleagues have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I would just make the formal request for just a specific example of what the conflict resolution process looks like. Yes. I'll move into just my last area. My colleague that I overlap with at the state level, Senator Jessica Ramos, has spearheaded legislation that would ban employers from using E-Verify systems. So I want to know how prevalent the use of E-Verify is and how common it is for contractors to weaponize immigration status on job sites.
Any of SBSS, EDC, workforce?
Yeah, I am familiar with E-Verify and the issue and don't have that data immediately, but I think it's very important and would be happy to look into it and get back to you with what we can gather.
Okay, again, right, like we know very well, especially in my community here in Western Queens, and I know that it's true in lots of the chairs communities, lots of our members communities, that our immigrant neighbors make up a significant portion of the construction workforce, and also are some of the most exploited and most vulnerable. So I think that this is particularly important information for us to have, especially when we see that our immigrant neighbors actually are experiencing construction site deaths at the highest rates around the city. And that's certainly connected to this, I believe, and how immigration status is weaponized and unsafer environments can sometimes take place because of that. So would love follow up on that. And those are all the questions I have. So happy to hand over to our other chair.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Chair Caban, for asking that really important question. I just want to dive into some workforce development questions and then a couple of the higher NYC questions I have. So the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity launched a citywide data platform in 2017 to analyze workforce program services and outcome data from various city agencies, including some that we have here, but not exclusive to DPR, DYCD, HRA, SBS, NYCHA. According to that portal, over 55,000 people out of over 450,000 have participated in a workforce development program since 2017 at more than one of these city agencies. Do we consider that a good number? And does this mean that work is being duplicated in at least 55,000 cases?
Laura?
Well, thank you for the question. Whether or not it's something we think is good, I think is a larger conversation that we should have and include our colleagues at Opportunity and be collaborative on how we approach that. So, I would be welcome to having that conversation. Unfortunately, wasn't prepared to look at those numbers or talk about it, but I'd really like to do that with you and everyone here.
Thank you. And so the Office of Workforce Development and Economic Opportunity launched the jobs portal working.nyc.gov, which serves as a hub for employment-related resources offered by the city and its partners. Do we know any feedback from the public, how it's been received? And can you list, if possible, any city agencies that participate and offer services through the site?
Well, yes, I can. I actually manage that website. So thanks for asking about it. It's new and I'm thrilled to hear that people know about it and are using it. We do that in partnership with NICO, and they are the tech experts, and then my office provides the content. So the goal is to advertise all of the city sponsored or adjacent workforce development programming, and also feature jobs with large scale hiring. And we understand that the system is siloed, and so that's the whole point, is to try and get as much as possible onto that website. So it is still new. We haven't put out a report yet, but thank you for asking, and we should. We do a lot of consumer testing and heuristic testing, so we do have information on it, but no one's asked for it yet. So we can definitely get back to you on it.
Yeah, I love
thank you.
Let's get it. That would be great. And so I guess let me know if you can answer this off the top of your head or not. I'm glad that you are actually the person that's working on it. Do we know how the data from the site is tracked to see when job seekers connect to appropriate agencies? And do we have any metrics? I'm assuming that's a no, because we haven't had a report yet indicating the success rate of applicants who apply through the site.
It's like an excellent question and a wish list item. We're not able to collect data on the individual people that are going to the site, so we don't know how many people are getting referrals, and it's definitely an item we want to pursue. So right now we don't know, but we do have information on how many people are coming, how long they're staying on the site, where they're clicking, and what they're doing. So I can give you some info on that.
Okay, great, thank you. Just want to switch it over to look at the structure of workforce development system if possible. The Invest in Skills NYC Coalition, there are at least 75 different workforce development programs in the city run by 21 different agencies. I asked this previously at my other hearing to SBS and EDC who were present, but we didn't have the opportunity to hear from workforce development. And so just wanted to run through a couple of them if they can be answered. Who's ultimately responsible for overseeing the strategic direction of all of these programs? And are there any steps that the admin is taking to ensure that different agencies communicate and collaborate on workforce development issues?
Thank you for the question. I think I understand what you're asking, and that it is my office. I think we should, that's something I need to get back to you on. We have a new director who was just appointed, and it's just early stages, so I don't feel confident in my answer now, but thank you for asking, and we'll get something clearer.
For sure, thank you. And then if possible, if anyone can answer, what steps is the administration taking to ensure that the training programs available through the workforce development system respond to the shifting needs in our current labor market?
I can respond to that. So for the Department of Small Business Services, we have a industry partnership model where we have the tech talent pipeline, the food industry, the manufacturing industrial industry, and the healthcare industry partnerships. So they all engage with industry to understand what their hiring needs are and what their critical skill gaps are. And those skill gaps then inform the trainings that SBS manages to directly address those skill gaps.
Okay, great. I'd like to ask some questions on citywide spending that have come to mind post our EDC question. Do we have the numbers on how much the city is currently spending on workforce development programs? No, okay. I will put these questions. I won't ask the rest of them because we don't have the top line one. There's no point in asking the smaller ones. So I'll send them over so we can get some answers. And then just wanted to know, in the blueprint, the administration plans to expand stipends to low-income New Yorkers participating in certain workforce development programs. Stipends like Metro cards, childcare, housing, or food, anything like that, not only will impact and benefit women in construction and in these fields, but also LGBTQ members, youth, etc. Do we know any of the eligibility criteria for these stipends on their existing programs, how large they are, what they cover, and if there's any plan for expansion?
Thank you for the question, Chair. We're very excited about the expansion of this stipend program and agree that it will really support people who haven't been able to participate before the program. The requirements for trainings are that someone is either low income or no income, and those requirements are set out on our career discovery website where people are able to learn about trainings. And so those requirements will apply to accessing the stipends as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Now some higher NYC questions, and then I'll be done on my end. The Higher NYC Development Program was designed to connect the city's low-income residents to new job opportunities generated by NYC EDC and HPD. However, there's little to no information publicly available to assess the outcome of the program. Can we get the current status of this program, and does the administration have updated information to share with the committees about the outcomes of Higher NYC?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I can respond to that. The program is active, so businesses that are contracting with the city are required to register their hiring opportunities, and then the Workforce One career system will look for candidates who are a good fit for those opportunities and refer them. Overall, in terms of all of the Higher NYC opportunities, so both the development opportunities and permanent opportunities, 48% of those hires have been women. And I can get you information on the wages if that's helpful as well. And if there's a breakdown of the higher NYC data, happy to provide that too.
Thank you, that'd be great. Claudia, I saw that your hand was up previously. Did you have something? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Since the program's inception, how many construction projects have been included in the Higher NYC development program?
I think that's a data point I will need to get back to you on, but thank you for the question. We'll let you get back to you.
No problem. Advocates have raised concerns that Higher NYC development program is not appropriate for the construction industry, since the program is limited to advertising individual jobs without building a pipeline between employers and a trained workforce. In what ways can the Higher NYC development program be improved to better connect low-income New Yorkers with good paying construction jobs?
I can take that, thank you. So some background, Higher NYC is a suite of initiatives that was designed to create jobs for New Yorkers from the Workforce One system and help businesses access qualified talent. Due to legal limitations, this policy lacks teeth needed to make it a hiring requirement, an actual requirement. So the city is working to establish a pathway for equitable community hiring by pursuing the passage of state legislation that would facilitate hiring requirements that are focused on connecting New Yorkers from low-income neighborhoods to those job openings. And it would leverage the city's purchasing power to create jobs for those communities that are historically marginalized.
Great. Do we know if state legislation has already been put in and we're working?
Not yet.
Okay, let's work on it together. I'm happy to
Yeah.
put it together. Let's do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. By any chance, does NYC collect data demographic information on the individual job seekers who participate in Higher NYC?
So we work, SBS leads and manages the Higher NYC development program. They do provide us with zip codes and and some specific demographics, and we do collect it. But really, it's really SBS has all that data.
And do we know if we collect any information about the length of employment or the wages paid to individuals placed in these construction jobs?
We don't have consistent reporting on the length of the employment. Sometimes that data is provided, sometimes not, and sometimes it's wrong. So we don't have good data there, but we do on wages.
Thank you for that. How does the EDC monitor compliance with the Higher NYC development program? Are there any penalties imposed for non-compliance?
Right, so we put the programmatic requirements on our agreements with developers, and they in turn push that language down to their subcontractors. But it's really the way that the language reads is that we put it in there. SBS is the one that really manages that enforcement mechanism. So Lucinda, there's obviously liquidated damages on that, and there's penalties, but SBS can go into detail.
So individual agencies are required to make sure that their contracts are compliant, meaning that the contract has enrolled in the Higher NYC portal and attested to any hiring needs within 30 days of the contract registration, and that all of their entry and mid-level job opportunities are shared in the portal.
Okay, great. Thank you. While Higher NYC development program does not require an employer to hire the specific candidates the city has referred, it does require that employers provide an explanation as to why it did not hire the candidates referred by the city. Can NYC-EDC report on any trends it has observed based on the employer explanations provided or any of that data surrounding it?
I
Again,
can jump in. SBS
yeah.
is the data holder, and we can report back to you to see what the feedback is. I would anticipate. I mean, we ensure that everyone that we referred is qualified, but I anticipate that the feedback would be that the person didn't meet all of the employer's requirements.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering all of my questions. And I'm really glad to hear SBS is the data holder, because we can ask for a lot of data and hopefully get it pretty quickly. With that, I will yield the rest of my time. I do see we have another colleague that has questions, and I know everyone is patiently waiting to testify. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to now turn it over to Councilmember Menon for additional questions of the administration. After Councilmember Menon asks her questions, we will move on to public testimony. Councilmember Menon, you may begin.
Thanks. I have a question for EDC. In 2018, you all launched a program, Women NYC. What's happening with that, and how much money has been spent overall on that program? And what have been the results and the impacts?
So Women NYC, I don't have the exact budget numbers here today, but I'm happy to get more information from the actual project manager that manages this program. It's not under my purview, but we have Women NYC is targeted towards women, and we have a number of programming, including New Venture 50 Plus, which really empowers women at all stages of their career to build strong communities. And then we also have the New York City Women's Fund, which provides grants up to $50,000. And we have provided about $5.5 million funds to help female identifying creative complete projects in the film, television, digital entertainment, theater, and music industries. In 2018 and 2019, there was a total of about $3.5 million awarded alone. Additional funds that are still available, and there's going to be an announcement very soon on that.
I'm just having a little trouble hearing you. I think the connection might have had some interference. What would be incredibly helpful is to understand how much since 2018 has EDC spent on salary, on advertising, on marketing, on Women NYC. I'm on the website right now. I remember the launch, and it has very ambitious goals, saying that it's going to create all these different programs. Has it created programs? Has it created jobs? What's the impact been? If you could send that over, that would be very helpful.
Definitely. I don't run Women NYC, so I unfortunately can't talk to those specific numbers, but we'll get back to you on that.
It has created several programs, one in which I think they had a partnership with AAUW around negotiating and salary negotiations, which was really extremely popular for a while, again, pre-pandemic. Just really a robust programming. And then the women, the 50 plus grouping and the funding for myriad entrepreneurial ventures as well. So it has been a very active program and fairly thinly staffed, unfortunately. So we'll get that information for you.
Chair Menon, are you done asking questions to the admin? Awesome, thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We've concluded administration testimony and will now turn to public testimony. I'd like to remind everyone that we will be calling on individuals one by one to testify. Each panelist will be given 4 minutes to speak. After I call your name, panelists, a member of our staff will unmute you. Again, there may be a few seconds of delay before you are unmuted, and we thank you in advance for your patience. Please wait a brief moment for the Sergeant at Arms to announce that you may begin before starting your testimony. Council members who have questions for a particular panelist should use the raise hand function in Zoom. I will call on you after the panel has completed their testimony in the order in which you raised your hand. I would like to now welcome Kathleen Cahan. After Kathleen, we'll be hearing from Kate Krug. After Kate, we'll be hearing from Sinead Wadesworth. And last, we'll be hearing from Loli Chiang. Kathleen, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Hi, everyone. Kathleen Culhane here. Good afternoon. I'm president of NEW, Non-Traditional Employment for Women, and happy to be here with you this afternoon it is now. So first want to say thank you to Speaker Adrian Adams, Deputy Speaker Diane Ayala, Chair Tiffany Caban, Chair Amanda Farias, Chair Carmen De La Rosa, and the council members on the Committee on Women and Gender Equity, Economic Development, Civil Service and Labor, and the staff who put this great hearing together. I also want to thank council members Moya, Caban, Stevens, and Farias for sponsoring Intro 179, legislation to create a task force to better understand the role of women in non-traditional spaces and how we can support them. As we celebrate the council's first women majority, as we've spoken about this morning, NEW is committed to working with our legislators to identify opportunities through programs and policy to bring gender equity to our workforce. When it comes to addressing gender inequity in the labor market, unions make the biggest impact. Union representation brings wage settings into the open space and helps ensure that employers set wages based on objective criteria such as skills, efforts, and responsibility. New York City building and construction trades unions are dedicated to fair schedules, fair wages, access to healthcare and childcare, and paid leave for all working families and women. These careers offer financial security with starting wages of $19 per hour, leading towards a pathway to middle-class wages and benefits through their unions, opening doors to stability and resources for women and their families. The Bureau of Labor Statistics find that unionized women make on average 23% more than women without a union. As we also talked about this morning, the pandemic laid bare the disproportionate burdens placed on women and the lack of resources dedicated to their needs. The workforce ecosystem in New York City needs stronger economic support to help New Yorkers facing employment barriers and those with impeded access to economic opportunities, particularly New Yorkers from communities that have been historically marginalized and disincentivized, like the low-income Black and Brown women and women facing childcare concerns that Women supports and serves. This has been paralleled by an increased need and demand for workforce services from both New Yorkers and employers and also small businesses. NEW is leveraging its 44 years of vital work preparing low-income women for high-paying careers in the skilled trades and providing wraparound services such as increased access to childcare through our partnership with NABTU, the North America Building Trades Union, as one of 2 pilot cities in the nation to address non-traditional childcare needs and to enhance access to construction education and careers. As many of you know, news programming transforms the lives of women in underserved communities and individuals with underrepresented backgrounds across New York City by providing pathways to careers in the building and construction trades. And through our programs, we offer students no-cost comprehensive training in both the hard and soft skills needed to thrive in a trades career. More than 82% of the individuals accessing news services identify as a minority, and additionally 80% come from low-income backgrounds that are underemployed, working minimum wage jobs, and 75% receive some SNAP. Construction trades careers increase the lifetime earning potential for a woman with a high school equivalency by 166% compared to other minimum wage jobs. Gender equity is a critical social and economic issue, and unions can help eliminate gender inequalities in the labor market.
Time expired.
You may finish, Kathleen, if you want.
Okay. I will be quick. We asked the administration today to increase awards for union contracts in New York City and thereby increase the number of employment opportunities for tradeswomen. NEW is eager to provide support for the local law proposed today in relation to creating a task force to examine the role of non-traditional workplaces, an area that we have decades of expertise to share. And I'm grateful for the time spent with you all today and look forward to working with you all to support future tradeswomen in our great city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. We'll next be hearing from Kate Krug. Kate, you may begin when the sergeant starts the timer. Thank you.
Time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Krug. I am the Executive Vice President of Non-Traditional Employment for Women, or NEW. Thank you to Speaker Adrienne Adams, Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala, Chairs Tiffany Caban, Amanda Farias, Carmen De La Rosa, and the council members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity, Economic Development, and Civil Service and Labor, and the staff who put this hearing together. Women, particularly Black and Brown women, are most impacted by economic crises. As you know, women accounted for up to 54% of coronavirus-related job losses. In some months of 2020, Black and Brown women accounted for all net job losses. NEW offers a holistic, career-oriented solution. NEW prepares, trains, and places low-income women in careers in the skilled construction, utility, and maintenance trades, helping women achieve economic independence and a secure future for themselves and their families. At the same time, NEW provides a pipeline of qualified workers to the unionized industries of New York City. Union representation brings wage setting into the open and helps ensure that employers set wages based on objective criteria, such as skill, effort, and responsibility. Unionized women make on average 23% more than a woman without a union. They are also far more likely to have paid leave and stronger protections against discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace. These careers offer financial security with starting wages of $19 per hour, leading towards a pathway to middle-class wages and benefits through their union. To enter a lucrative and sustainable field like construction, women must have access to resources that address specific needs in the industry. Since 1978, NEW has been the groundbreaking model that works for women and for New York City. Through our programs, we offer students no-cost comprehensive training in both the hard and soft skills needed to thrive in a trade career, including advanced training programs, an expanded employer base, wraparound social services, including our non-traditional childcare pilot program in partnership with the North American Building Trades Unions, and a growing number of opportunities available to women through those employers. We envision a future where women are equally provided the skills and opportunities needed to succeed in construction trades career. NEW believes that equitable economic opportunities for tradeswomen means increasing union construction projects in New York City, as well as creating stability and efficiency on long-term construction by advocating for diversity goals on projects. More than 82% of individuals accessing new services identify as a minority. Additionally, 80% come from low-income backgrounds and are underemployed working minimum wage jobs, with 75% receiving some form of public assistance such as SNAP or TANF. Gender equity is a critical societal and economic issue, and unions can help eliminate gender inequalities in the labor market. We ask the administration today to increase awards for union contracts in New York City and thereby increasing the number of employment opportunities for tradeswomen. NEW is also eager to provide support for the local law proposed today in relation to creating a task force to examine the role of women in non-traditional workplaces, an area which Kathleen mentioned we have decades of expertise to share. I'm grateful for your time today and spent with all of you and look forward to working with you all in the future to support tradeswomen of New York City. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. We'll now be hearing from Sinead Wadesworth. Sinead, you may begin when the sergeant starts the timer.
Time starts now.
Wadsworth, I graduate of New.
Sinead, I think we're having some technical difficulties. If you want to resume and start again, or we can circle back to you if you're having tech issues. You seem present, and yeah, it looks good. If you want to start again.
Okay. Good morning, representatives. My name is Sinead Wadsworth. Can you hear me? I don't know what's going on here.
You're good.
Okay.
You're clear.
Sorry. Okay. 11 years ago, I went to New. I'm a graduate of New. Prior to that, I was on public assistance. I lived in Niger and I was raised by my grandmother and 7 grandkids, right? And I say this to say that after graduating non-traditional employment for women, I went through my apprenticeship program, became a journeywoman, and now I am the youngest and the first African-American female council representative for the New York City District Council of Carpenters, thanks to my EST, Joe Geiger. I will say that if it wasn't for mentorship, right, if it wasn't for the opportunity, if it wasn't for the union, I wouldn't be able to have moved up so fast, and I wouldn't be able to help people and open doors for people behind me, right? In 2022, we're still facing the same issues, right? People are still struggling. People are still working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And that's unacceptable. Unfortunately, as an organizer, I see the challenges every day that workers face. Workers that look like me, workers that don't have representation, workers that don't have healthcare, workers that are killed on job sites and die on job sites, and the next day it's back to business as normal, right? That's not okay. And I thank you for all the things that you guys are doing. I heard a lot of the dialogue going back and forth when it comes to the city agencies, HPD, Hire NYC, all these programs, right? New needs help because new is the solution to a much larger problem. We don't have the market share, right? So if we don't have the market share, if we don't have the opportunities, if we're not in these buildings, how can new keep helping people if they don't have the opportunity, if they're not at the table? So I commend everyone that's here today. Thank you. Thank you for all your advocacy. Thank you for everything that you are doing. Thank you for asking the hard questions because again, new can't do it by themselves, right? They have to have access. They have to have the doors open. And just like new saved me, I'm able to save other people. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity and enjoy the rest of this wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nate. We'll now be hearing from Loli Cheng. Loli, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Loli Cheng, IBEW Local 3 Journeywoman and Non-Traditional Employment for Women new graduate. Thank you to the Speaker Adams, Chair De Lacio, Chair Cobain, the council members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity, and the staff who put this hearing together. 40 years ago, I came to this country hoping to find American dream of upward mobility. I followed the script and invest my time and energy in higher education. My first degree is in toy design. I was working as a model maker for toy companies. However, my job got outsourced to China. At that time, I got paid at $15 an hour. But in China, the labor doing the same job get $15 a day. So there was no competitions and no future in that career. So I went back to college again and got another degree, this time in computer graphics. But I could only find freelance job without health insurance nor benefits. During the Great Recessions of 2008, there was no job. The recession dragged on for years. So in 2011, I was 46 years old with only a few $1,000s in my bank account. So I can't afford to go on vacation. I can't afford to buy a house. I can't even afford to get sick. But also in 2011, I passed new buildings and I saw a group of women carrying construction materials around. I never knew that a woman could be a construction worker. I signed up with NEW. In 2022, I started my apprenticeship program with local union number 3 and learned to become an electrician. 5.5 years later, at age 52, I became a journeywoman. Thanks to my union, I have now had pensions, 401k, health benefits, and a bank account with a year of emergency fund. I enjoy middle-class life and my family benefit from a good union wage too. I can support my 2 nieces go to college. One is studying in Buffalo U and another is in Stony Brook University. Thanks to NEWS, doors open to women in different trade unions. Men and women in the union get the same pay. Also, only in a union, a person like me, an older minority woman, can still have the chance to learn a trade and live the American dream. We women from NEWS are willing to work hard to better our lives, so please provide jobs to unions so we trade women can work. I'm grateful for your time and I appreciate all you try to do better for the women in the construction trade. The problem of women in constructions, the the difficulty they face has been going on for a long, long times. So I hope all your hard work will pay off and make our life better in the constructions. However, providing jobs to unions is the same as providing jobs to trade women. So thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Loli. I will now turn it over to Chair De La Rosa and Chair Caban for questions from this panel, and then we'll open it up to council members if you have any questions for this panel. Chair De La Rosa, sorry.
Thank you, Bianca. So I had a question I wanted to ask. Can you outline the process by which new graduates are recruited and placed in unionized apprenticeship programs? Specifically, what percentage of new graduates are immediately placed in a unionized apprenticeship program upon graduation?
Yes, thank you. I hope you feel better soon.
My voice is going.
I hear it. Yes, so recruitment is many ways. We do have similar to we heard today in terms of we have a number of folks that come through our doors that have heard from family members and friends, have gone through our program. So word of mouth continues to be strong, but we do put what resources we can into recruiting, working with council members and others to go out into the community. We are looking to we've obtained some funding to hire a full-time recruiter, and we also work with community-based organizations. We host them for breakfasts, virtual or otherwise, to work with community partners to refer folks to our organization. One of the things that I'd have to mention here that we find is that that lack of bridge programs in the city. We are a bridge program to the apprenticeship, the unionized apprenticeship programs, but we often find that the 7th grade math and reading level we look for someone to come into our program so that they can be ready to be employed upon graduation. We often find that they're not able to meet that requirement the first time around and need some intensive training that we provide to then meet that 7th grade math or reading level. And so partnering with those other bridge programs in the city that there are not enough of, and having the resources to do that is on New's long wish list. So recruitment comes in many sources. We have, we talked a bunch today that that made me think about, we have in the past partnered with the city for subway and bus ads. We've had some small funding to do Link NYC ads in the past. And when we have, those have proved successful. Jumping council member to placement, we typically train and we're kind of back up to those, getting back up to those pre-pandemic numbers. We quickly went, to a virtual then hybrid environment. And so we continue to train virtually and then in our shop towards the end of our typically, 2-month program. Our last fiscal year that started, this current fiscal year that started July 1, we've enrolled 196 students so far in our core training programs that are day and evening. We've placed 135 folks, graduates that identify as women into placement opportunities. 91 of them are apprenticeships. Some of them are other job opportunities that they continue to work with us. All of our graduates continue to work with us, even if they're in an interim position, which is usually career related. Ideally, they're, working in a stockroom, keeping up their physical skills, or working on a construction site, keeping in our business. And then once they're placed in apprenticeships, they're new for life. So we continue to work with them for life. We typically see about a 75% graduation rate in our core programs. It went down a little bit during the pandemic, but it's rising. And then we typically see about a 75% placement rate off of graduation. And sometimes those career placements in the apprenticeship programs could take 3 to 6 months because the apprenticeship programs usually recruit from us either on a annual basis, twice a year, quarterly. So we certainly, it's a big part of our program is making sure that women are continue to be engaged with us and on their career path as they're waiting for those permanent placements.
Thank you. And then the last question from me is, how can the city help programs like NEW to be more successful?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a lot this morning. I'm really excited for the local law proposed. I've been with NEW about 15 years now and as president for the latter half, basically. And so, you know, a number of long-term partners with us this morning and this afternoon. And so we talked about a lot of things that work, right? And so it is about getting the word out in every neighborhood to every community. It is about focusing on childcare and in ways that we haven't before, and the new focus on childcare from a city, state, and federal level, and from our partners at NAB2 and with the Building and Construction Trades Council in the city is historic. That's one of the many ways. I think like everything, I think having a task force, you know, looking at the data is things that we're excited about and excited that this is, we know, just the start of further conversations and work.
I want to add something. Like,
go ahead.
I'm from the electrician union, so I'm also involved with like a mentoring program from the union. So I have an access to the list of the new apprentices came in every 6 months to our union. And last time we have 120 new apprentices come in, and 25 of them are women, and 23 of them are from NEW. So NEW did an excellent job at channeling women to unions. However, when the woman came to union, I mean, most, like I would say 25% from that apprenticeship program only stay to become journeywomen. So after that, you know, there is other work that have to be done to keep women in the trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Loli. That's a good point, and also I think points to the success of NEW, but also some of the obstacles that we continue to see for retention and support of the women once they are through that process. I'm going to pass it over to Chair Caban.
Yes, thank you. I just want to echo my colleagues' gratitude. Really appreciate all of you for your testimony, but also recently had the opportunity to visit NEW with Chair De La Rosa and Councilwoman Sandy Nurse, and was just blown away by it. So really appreciate y'all. I actually want to dig deeper into what was just said. I know that NEW employs a retention coordinator to help tradeswomen navigate the challenge of the pre-apprenticeship training. Would y'all be able to go into more detail on some of the common obstacles that NEW's coordinator helps tradeswomen overcome specifically?
Yeah, and thank you, Loli. Retention is a big piece, right? And so we're fortunate to have a director of social services, Linda Young, who's been with NEW for 20 years. And we have, 5 social work interns on her staff each year. And so it starts with the recruitment piece, and it starts with potential students who may be accepted to our program, but do not start a core training class until they've worked with social services in their intake process. Thinking about, do they have the backup to the backup child care before they start our class in order to be successful? And so we're thinking about retention as we're thinking about, starting in our class, and retention in the NEW's core program. Then they go on to an advanced training program in order to then go to be an electrician like Loli did. And then retention is for life. And some of the things that we're able to do is work with all our students and graduates to make sure that they use NEW as a resource, and that they're also placed with others linked with others in terms of other graduates that have been through what they've been through. We also, when you start your apprenticeship, in addition to being able to do a coffee run for maybe, 25, 30 workers on the job, which we train for at New, and being able to do the lifting and carrying needed to usually, unload those trucks as a first-year apprentice. We also provide assistance with those, union dues that start right away before you're making your money, and the toolkit by trade, an electrician's toolkit, a carpenter's toolkit. We make sure you have access to, the childcare that is available in New York City, and think about your network, think about non-traditional childcare, and all the ways that we can support that. And so those are some of the things.
Great, thank you. And I just want to highlight what you said at the end in terms of the working together to overcome some of the childcare issues. Obviously, days start early and there are long hours, and quite often outside of childcare, like typical childcare center hours. And so could you just provide a little bit more detail on what that work looks like to help find tradeswomen solutions to that particular challenge?
Yeah, what that work continues to look like is working with each individual before they start our pre-apprenticeship program in terms of what are the childcare options in your neighborhood, linking with some of the councils in New York City that help that we work closely with, that help folks on an individual level think about what's in their neighborhood. One of the things that we know, and we'll be building on in our pilot with the BCTC in New York City and NAB2 this year, is we know that for these careers, there's not enough early morning childcare, but it's also really important for families to have childcare in their neighborhood, because you could be working in Staten Island one day and Brooklyn the next, and the Bronx the next week on a job site. So it's not job site specific childcare, doesn't really work for New York City. And then one of the things that we'll be able to build on this year through that pilot is funding for basically 2 handfuls, about 10 graduates for a year, to help them help provide them with the child care that's makes most sense to them. So honoring, if they have a family member that they want to pay for their child care, and then providing research during this year, not just around those 10 families that we support, but models that work in New York City and otherwise that can inform some of the additional policy and advocacy work that we do around childcare, and a lot of you all with us today do as well.
Well, thanks so much. And then I just have one last quick question. Can you describe the various ways New tracks apprentices and graduates of its programs, including available data related to the LGBTQ plus community?
Yeah, we specifically around the LGBTQ plus community, we track everyone that we serve in terms of potential, applicants, potential students. It's self-reported. We put in some additional measures to track that data just in the last year or so. And so we have some of that information. And then we are able to track now shifting to, we're able to track a graduate throughout their apprenticeship, both in our relationships with our graduates, but then also working with the directors of each apprenticeship program. We can gather that data in terms of, are they still in the apprenticeship program? Are they retained in the union? It becomes a little more tricky once they journey out, typically at year 4 to 6, depending on the trade. And so, therefore, we rely on our relationships with our graduates as well to collect some of that data, and we're thinking about some ways we can enhance that work.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I've got.
Just one more question for New, and thank you so much for answering all of our questions so far. What are some valuable lessons learned from conducting remote operations during the pandemic that you can share? Maybe perhaps the city can build upon in their own programmatic initiatives?
Yeah, we talk a lot about this. I talk a lot about this during these times. Is the opportunities that came out of the pandemic and came out of these past couple of years. One of the things that was an opportunity for us that we continue to do is hold our information sessions in a virtual environment. Pre-pandemic, we would hold our information sessions only in person at our restored firehouse in Chelsea, Tuesdays at 10 a.m., Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Now that we're holding them in day and evening times in a virtual environment, we're seeing that we're really able to reach many more New Yorkers and beyond through a virtual environment. So that's something we're really continuing with. And then as well in our hybrid training, we're able to serve folks in a different way, and we're able to, honor a bit of the, challenges that have come to light in the past couple of years in terms of getting to a training program, for 8 weeks from, 7:30 as early as on time is our motto. So get there at 7:30 to start at 8, end at 4. Then maybe have some intensive math classes after that. So having a hybrid model where we're able to really focus on our trades math and our health and safety certifications with, our partners at NICOSH and our job readiness, and then doing the hands-on portion towards the end of the training in person is a model that really works for us. So that's two of the, many ways that we have had lessons learned. We've also been really excited with the increased interest really in our signature projects program. And so that was launched in 2010, and that's where owners and developers set goals, typically a 15% tradeswoman hour goal for the life of the project. And then they work with New to ensure that those goals are met by trade. And there's been a real increased interest from owners and developers since the pandemic, and our city, state, and nation's focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so that's a model that also really works.
Thank you for sharing that.
Chairs, do you have any further questions for this panel before I open it up to the other council members? Okay, great. I will now ask if there are any more questions from council members. As a reminder, if council members have questions for a particular panelist, they should use the raise hand function in Zoom at this time. Seeing no hands raised, I will call on the next panel. I would like to now welcome Santos Rodriguez. After Santos, we'll be hearing from Sierra Nizaj. After Sierra, we'll be hearing from Talissa Smith, and then last, Megan Wiley. Santos, you may begin when the timer starts.
Thank you very much, Bianca. Thank you, Councilmember De La Rosa. Sorry, can you hear me? I just heard an echo on my end.
You're good. I think the timer was starting.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Caban, and Speaker Adams, and all the other council members for this hearing today. I've actually heard a lot of good information coming through this. I've been on as much as possible. Excuse the sirens as we're in Midtown. But so good afternoon now. I'm Santos Rodriguez, testifying on behalf of Gaila Barber, President of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York, also referred to as the BCTC. The Building and Construction Trades Council is an organization of local building and construction trades union that are affiliated with 15 international unions and North America's Building Trades Union. Our local union affiliates represent approximately 100,000 union construction workers. The Building Trades mission is to raise the standard of all living for all workers, to advocate for safe work conditions. I'm sorry, I'm gonna close the window for a second. Please forgive me for that. With the goal to advance all working conditions and raise standards for all construction workers, the BCTC has successfully advocated for legislation before this council, wage stuff legislation in Albany, and wage standards in certain construction projects that would benefit all workers regardless of union status, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, or gender. Membership in the labor union is the best way to ensure that workers are treated equally. Under collective bargaining agreement, we are paid based upon trade work that they perform. Employers do not get to randomly decide how they will compensate workers. If you are a plumber performing construction in new commercial development, you receive the same wages and benefits as every other plumber performing construction on a new commercial development. The collective bargaining agreement requires this. Your employer cannot decide to pay you less because of your race, sexual orientation, or gender. There is no similar protection for non-union workers on private construction projects. There is no similar mechanism for enforcement such as requirement without labor unions. Additionally, the BCTC and its affiliates and their signatory contractors invest heavily in recruitment and training. To this end, we work closely with the ARC affiliates, the Apprenticeship Readiness Collective, which you've heard from you already, a group of 4 separate pre-apprenticeship programs that recruit individuals across various demographics in New York City, provide entry-level skills, and ultimately direct entry into an apprenticeship program for the union construction trades. These 4 programs are, which I'm a proud graduate, the Edu J. Malloy Initiative for Construction Skills, Non-Traditional Employment for Women, New York Helmets to Hard Hats, and Pathways to Apprenticeship, P2A. While each of these programs target separate communities for recruitment, there is no eligibility requirement or restrictions for participation in any of these programs based on gender, except for NEW, which is focused specifically on women and non-binary individuals. Notably, women and non-binary individuals can and do participate with T-Skills, H2H, and P2A. Graduates from these programs are provided direct entry into a construction union apprenticeship program. These programs provide these individuals with much more than just a job. It provides them with the skill and base of support to begin careers in the construction industry where they can earn family-sustaining wages and benefits. Established programs like these simply do not exist in the non-union sector of this construction industry. Efforts to diverse recruitment aiming to improve the lives of workers and provide them career opportunities do not exist in the non-union sector. There is no voice for workers in the non-union sector. You'll likely hear more about this plight on non-union contractors. The only way to guide participation through pre-apprenticeship programs to an apprenticeship program and ultimately into a career in construction is by working. Can I have a few more minutes?
You may finish, Santos, of course.
Thank you. Is by working tirelessly to secure future work opportunities for these individuals. Our project labor agreements ensure that workers perform on a specific project utilizing union labor. This allows the affiliated unions to place maximum amount of apprentices allowed by law on projects. Where there is no PLA, there is no guarantee that apprentices will have place to complete their fieldwork portion of the apprenticeship program. Where these projects do not utilize union contracts, there are no apprentices working, learning, or growing in their project period. The BCTC and its affiliates are doing what we can to increase diversity in the trades, including providing opportunities for more women and non-binary individuals who enter the trades. We are increasing recruitment efforts, working closely with pre-apprenticeship programs, and seeking to ensure PLAs to ensure that workers' opportunity for these individuals. The number of individuals that can be required into pre-apprenticeship programs or apprenticeship programs is tied with the amount of work, which is, this is very important, which is tied to the amount of work trade can project it will have and have to perform in the future. The more work opportunities trades have, the more recruitment opportunities are available. Any one construction project will eventually end. We are all working to secure a pipeline to make sure that those workers and New Yorkers and new workers will continue to have employment opportunities after the one project is complete. We need to make sure these opportunities continue to present themselves so that we can continue recruit, train, and prepare tomorrow's construction workers. We should all want the workers to build our bridges, preparing our roads, rehabilitating our airports, constructing high-rise buildings in Manhattan, and low-rise apartment buildings in through the boroughs where our neighborhoods will live and raise their families to build a highly trained and skilled workforce that feels secure in employment and careers. We thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Thank you for that. Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you, Santos. We'll now be hearing from Sierra. Sierra, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the council and the committee members for allowing me to speak today.
I'm Sierra Neza. I am the Director of Communications and Grant Writing for Building Skills New York. Building Skills New York is a nonprofit construction workforce development organization that connects underemployed New Yorkers to construction jobs throughout New York City. Building Skills works with prospective partners in underemployed communities to connect them with industry-recognized training and credentials to place them into meaningful employment. We thank the committees for the opportunity to testify as part of the oversight of gender diversity in the trades and the creation of the task force on women in non-traditional employment. Only about 10% of payroll employees in the New York City construction industry are women, ranking 25th among big cities and falling below the national average of 13%. This number has remained relatively stagnant since the 90s, according to a 2020 analysis of the Bureau of Labor Statistics data. To combat this disparity, Building Skills New York supports the creation of the task force on women in non-traditional employment. We propose working with the council to place more women into construction jobs. We are certain our experience uniquely positions us to advocate for women in construction and tackle issues that lead to challenges with recruitment and retention of women, sustained negative work environments for women, issues impacting how these environments value diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other significant barriers to success for women in non-traditional workplaces. Building Skills has worked with council members Brooks Powers, Riley, and Ayala, among others, to connect their constituents to viable construction jobs through job fairs, referral partners, and district office services. Currently, Building Skills is consistently working to not only recruit more women for our programming and place more women into meaningful employment, but also encourage the women we already work with to remain confident and take charge of their careers despite unequal representation in the construction industry. We encourage women to build careers in construction by facilitating all female OSHA 30 and site safety training cohorts as part of our Construction Career Accelerator program, highlighting mothers in construction throughout May to celebrate Mother's Day, and inviting women who Building Skills has placed into employment to speak to our current construction skills training cohorts. Building Skills also connects women to advanced training like 4-hour scaffolding, flagging, HVAC, F60, and G60 training to earn additional credentials that will lead to career advancement, and wage growth. In the future, we plan to also honor multiple women in construction at an upcoming event where they will be given the opportunity and platform to speak to their experience within the construction industry. Additionally, while women who work in the construction industry are more likely to work in an office setting, 88% of women Building Skills places into employment work directly on site, including in positions like general labor, carpentry, electrical, and HVAC work. The average initial hourly rate of women Building Skills has placed into employment has risen steadily. In addition, Building Skills has placed over 24 women in multiple jobs since 2020, showing we are not only committed to being an entry point to the construction industry for women, but to helping women advance their careers and be a resource for upward mobility, including potential opportunities into pre-apprenticeship programs and unionized building trades. Our goal is to encourage the women we serve to build viable careers in the construction industry that they are proud of. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Sierra. We'll now be hearing from Talissa Smith. Talissa, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Talissa Smith. I serve as Program Director of the Edward J. Malloy Initiative for Construction Skills, C-Skills for short. I am testifying today on behalf of Nicole Bertrand, the Executive Vice President of C-Skills. Construction Skills is a not-for-profit corporation that administers an apprenticeship readiness program for New York City public high school seniors and adult residents seeking careers in the unionized construction industry. Our apprenticeship readiness program offers a nationally recognized curriculum, the Multi-Craft Core Curriculum, MC3, and leads to direct entry access to apprenticeships programs jointly sponsored by union affiliates of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York, BCTC. Since 2001, Construction Skills has contributed to the development of a skilled and trained workforce by recruiting, training, and placing residents of New York City into apprenticeship programs jointly sponsored by union affiliates of the BCTC. To date, Construction Skills has placed 2,350 New York City residents into union apprenticeship programs. Our participants live in all 5 boroughs of New York City. 89% of these participants identify as members of a minority community, and 80% remain active in the industry today, working as apprentices and journey persons. The success of construction skills can be attributed to the commitment to diversity and inclusion of the BCTC and its affiliates. In 2020, after years of side-by-side collaboration, the 4 workforce development organizations formally endorsed by the BCTC have united to form the Apprenticeship Readiness Collective, ARC. ARC is a collective intended to coordinate services and raise the profile of direct entry programs in New York City. Its affiliates include construction skills, non-traditional employment for women, helmets to hard hats, and pathways to apprenticeship. Each ARC affiliate stands ready with the skills and expertise to provide direct entry access to family-sustaining careers in the unionized construction industry that offers high wages, training and education, health benefits, and retirement security. ARC affiliates provide apprenticeship readiness and placement services to New Yorkers, largely in response to the construction industry's demand for labor. Projects built using union labor means more opportunity and new and existing workers to access these family-sustaining careers. One of the ways the council can support New Yorkers seeking these careers is to help to ensure that work performs on projects in the 5 boroughs utilize union labor. More union jobs will create more opportunities for New Yorkers served by the ARC affiliates. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you, Talissa. We'll now be hearing from Megan Wiley. Megan, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Megan Wiley, and I serve as the Deputy Political Director for the New York City and Vicinity District Council of Carpenters. Thank you to Chairs De La Rosa, Caban, and Farias, Speaker Adams, and all council members here today for holding this important hearing that addresses an issue close to my heart, both as part of a union working to fix an industry-wide gender gap and as a woman in a predominantly male field. The district council builds this city from the ground up and keeps it running, and our members are highly skilled in everything from concrete formwork, metal and wood framing, drywall, flooring, architectural woodwork, roofing, and many other skills in between. On behalf of our 20,000 members who live and work in New York City, I'm proud to speak on the importance of increasing pathways for women in the construction trades and our efforts to do so, as well as in support of Councilmember Moya's bill, Intro 0179, which would create a task force to evaluate and report on female representation in the trades. The District Council of Carpenters is dedicated to making sure our union resembles the diversity of the city we work in, and to ensuring that New Yorkers from all paths of life have access to the life-changing opportunities, such as higher wages, health benefits, pensions, and workplace protections that come with being in a union. Our efforts surrounding gender diversity in the District Council of Carpenters consist of 2 branches: recruiting women previously unexposed to construction jobs and working to improve the retention rate of female apprentices and journeywomen. With a set number of slots in a randomized lottery selection system for apprentices, the ability to compensate for the gender gap is far too limited. This is why non-traditional employment for women, a direct entry pre-apprenticeship program that we just heard from, focused on recruiting low-income women, transgender, and non-binary individuals, is particularly vital to developing a pipeline for underrepresented communities. Since 1978, NEW has placed women in over 3,000 industry careers, 700 of which were with the NYC DCC. We urge the City Council to continue to fund NEW through the Young Women's Leadership Development and Job Training and Placement Initiatives. As stated, however, recruitment is only half the battle. Many women who enter our apprenticeship program drop out within 5 years for reasons as mentioned by council members today, and we have made it our mission to identify the causes of this trend work to fix them with various council members. In the past 2 years, we have specifically focused on our mentoring program, Sisters in the Brotherhood. The SIB program consists of approximately 800 members of the NYC DCC that focuses on building a community and support network for women in the union through regular meetings, outreach to high schools, trips to our training center in Las Vegas with chapters of the SIB from across North America, and more initiatives. Thank you again to the Committees on Civil Service and Labor, Women and Gender Equity, and Economic Development for allowing me to speak on the ways in which we are working to increase the number of women in our union. We are grateful to work with so many council members and to ensure we are fostering opportunities for constituents in every district. And we look forward to a day when the construction trades are no longer a non-traditional path for women.
Thank you, Megan. I will now turn it over to Chair Caban first for questions, followed by questions from Chair De La Rosa and then Chair Farias. Chair Caban, you may begin when ready.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for their testimony. I want to actually re-ask a question I asked of the administration because we didn't really get an answer, but feel like y'all could speak to this. Specifically around grievance processes. Could you describe the process of handling gender-based harassment complaints on the worksite? Specifically, like what are the consequences for substantiated complaints? And could you provide some examples of a conflict resolution an individual, their union, and a contractor might reach in response to a harassment complaint?
So I'll jump in really quick and speak as a council, right? First, we have sexual harassment training. We have harassment trainings as early as apprentices and pre-apprentice. I know that the pre-apprenticeship programs have harassment training also, right? So the grievance process, each individual union, each individual of our affiliates have their own individual grievance process. To go into every single one, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what they all do. However, there is absolutely zero tolerance when something is passed along to a shop steward, a foreman, a business agent, right? That in turn goes in between the trade itself and the owner of the job site, right? So what examples we have? I mean, we've had other issues where we've had stand downs on jobs over issues where myself, Gary LaBarber, president of the building trades, other principal officers have gone to a job site and had a stand down to speak to the audience, to the workers on site of what's acceptable and not acceptable on job sites. There have been contractors and owners that have put, for people to speak, have put, I just drew a blank on a prize or whatever so they can come out and speak, right? Not a prize, I'm using the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. Incentives, like so someone can speak on behalf of what really happened on the situation to get to an arrest. Like if it escalates, we are completely, on board with rectifying whatever situation took place, but we have to know about it as well, right? When it comes to harassment, it's not easy for everyone to come out and speak about harassment. It's a very difficult situation where we're speaking in general terms. In women right now, I can tell you about what I've been through, right? And how I've dealt with it, but that's not going to be the same way you probably go through a situation and deal with it also, right? So I think it's up to the individual to speak up. And that's probably the most difficult thing we see is when someone needs to speak up. What are the consequences, the fear that they have? And, we've seen, and you'll have another speaker here today that can probably speak to this more on harassment. We've seen the Attorney General Tish James actually prosecute, right, on a non-unit construction site because of the lack of enforcement. So, I'll turn it over to anyone else on the panel that can speak a little bit more to it. But on a general term, there's really zero tolerance on our side. The grievance process is that has to be reported to the shop steward, foreman, and up the chain on the union side and on the owner side as well. I hope that answers your question to a degree.
Thank you. If nobody else wants to chime in, I have one more question for y'all, and it's just simply how can the City Council collaborate with BCTC to better support recruitment and retention of women and gender expansive folks in the skilled trades?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that question. I'll dive in and I'll pass it along also. So there's a lot that City Council can do, right? There's a lot that comes in front of City Council throughout the years, whether we speak about rezoning, the last big, let's call it, fight that we had was over the New York City Blood Center, right? That whole project. We go back to a job that you're well familiar with Amazon out in Queens, right? We had a deal with Amazon, and we had a direct pipeline to work with the people of Queensbridge Housing to bring people in. Like I've been in the industry now, and I come through construction skills, right? I'm telling you my story, right? I come through construction skills. I've been in the business for 23 years. I come from a small local, out of NYCHA houses, out of Williamsburg houses, right on 112 Stagwalk. That's what I was born and raised there, right? And it's given me the opportunity to speak up and provide more help for folks like me that come in from our communities, right? So what we can do is when a developer or contractor comes, what city council could do, right, is assure that it's not, we don't talk about just local jobs, because that's a good talking point, right? But how do you provide a real career path? What are the pipelines that you're utilizing, that contractor's utilizing to get you more apprenticeship, more pre-apprenticeships in the 4 apprenticeship programs, pre-apprenticeship programs that we're working with and we're talking to right now, right? The more work that comes through the city that we can identify, the greater the pipeline of workers we can continue to bring in from our communities. I'll yield, and Megan and Talisa, if you have anything else to add. I think those are important points.
Thanks. I'll add if that's okay. And just to reiterate what Santos was saying, I agree. I think just making sure that we're ensuring labor careers by putting pressure on developers to make sure that they're accepting bids and listening to what our organizers have to say. And in addition, just making sure that we have these requirements on projects. And in addition, just what our union in particular, what our union, which I can speak on, is really focused on is working on outreach. And while our organizers are out in every neighborhood trying to spread the word at high schools and career fairs and open shop sites, we also just would love to work with, and we'd love to work with more council members just to reach their constituents, especially communities that may not be exposed to construction jobs otherwise.
Thank you.
I will now turn it over to Chair De La Rosa for questions.
Thank you. I have a few questions. The first one is more of a general question, but how can unions be an example of how to diversify industries for non-union, folks in the industry? How can the unions be an example?
So I'll jump in once again. It's got to be, the building trades have been doing an intentional, with its affiliates, an intentional change, an intentional adjustment, and looking at who reflects New York City, right? How do we protect the workers? You heard me speak of safety legislation to cover all construction workers in New York City that passed almost 7 years ago now. You hear about certain construction jobs that we try to lift the wage standards, right? So you really have to answer to community, right? You have to make sure that you're providing the right wages, the benefits. You have to see who's in need. You heard the city speak earlier about the city project labor agreement, and 15% of those people that live under 50% of the poverty. Now, that's a lot. That's over 50% of New York City. We learned that with the partnership that we have with the city of New York. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of zip codes. That's a lot of our neighbors, right? So we have to make sure that how we lift those people. I think, and look, you see it in us. Right now you have Megan from the District Council of Carpenters. You have Talisa speaking on behalf of construction sales. You have Kathleen speaking, and Kate speaking on behalf of New, right? You have P2A, Shy, she's on. You have Sami speak on behalf of New. You have Loli, right, speaking. These are all women. These are all women that are in leadership roles that are pushing forward. That's how you do it. That's exactly how you do it. And I hope that answers some of that question.
Thank you. Anybody else on the panel want to add? No? Okay. My next question. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Santos, specifically for mentioning the need to expand the PLAs and to create opportunities for for union jobs in our communities, especially as we begin to discuss rezonings and other developments in our communities. I think that that's always an important point, and one that fortifies a council member, right, who is trying to negotiate a project in their own community to ensure that there are jobs that create sustainable life for workers, for union workers in our communities. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the dedicated slots across demographic groups. I asked this of the administration. The answer was unclear, so I'm re-asking. Do you believe that the dedicated slots around demographic groups have been an effective way to diversify the construction industry?
100%. I believe in that as I'm a sitting, living, breathing example of it. 23 years in the business, came in through construction skills, went through an apprenticeship program through the heat enforced insulators of Local 12 in New York City. I became their organizer. I became their political director. I am now sitting here with the building trades as Director of Community Affairs, Chief of Staff of Gary LaBarbera, representing over 100,000 construction workers and 15 international and national affiliates, as you heard in the statement. There is absolutely a change in the industry when you see a report from the ARC affiliates and you see that 89% are of minority status or identify as minority. When you see that there's over 85% retention rate, these are real lives. These are real people we're talking about. These are real changes that happen, right? When we speak, you mentioned rezoning, and I was, we had a conversation about a certain rezoning. I won't go into which one, right? We had before everyone on this call, I believe, was here with City Council, but that was an opportunity. There was an opportunity where rezoning was coming into a neighborhood, and it's massive rezoning. But when you speak about life science, when you speak about housing, when you speak about mixed use housing, when you speak about schools, right? Those are all potential good union construction jobs that can be created. But we're not speaking about what stores are coming in afterwards, what supermarket, UFCW, United Food Commercial Workers, good union jobs, RWDSU, retail workers, right, that are coming in, good union jobs. When you talk about maintenance of a building, 32BJ, when you talk about hotels, like there's a real establishment that can be built out of rezonings with new bus operators, more bus operators coming in, new mechanics. Those are all new train conductors, like that's all a way of envisioning what labor can bring to the table and expanding on a rezoning that can really work through and through.
So you're kind of alluding to the infrastructure around the after effects of development in our communities, which is something that we're definitely looking at. Just to piggyback on that question a little bit, what can the city do to better ensure predictability of construction project hours so that the Buildings and Construction Trades Council, for example, can place more graduates of the ARC pre-apprenticeship programs into the pipeline?
It's the amount of work that's being built, right? We're only gonna have in our lifetime right now, right? One JFK, one LaGuardia Airport, right? If we're talking about the new Penn Station redevelopment, we got to see that as a big opportunity to really bring in more people, right? If you think about projects that are coming on a pipeline in Queens and in the Bronx, with Fordham Landing, these are all big projects that we can tell you that for the most part right now, we're speaking and contemplating project labor agreements and their discussions to talk about those, right? But it's as simple enough as when a contractor developer comes to city council and starts the conversation with you, even on affordable housing, and says, hey, if you want affordable housing, we can't supply union labor, right? That's the main division right off the bat is the first argument. Why? If city council and how city council can help is incentivize our programs, our 4 pre-apprenticeship programs, ensure that the contracts, I know you can't utilize union labor because it's preemptive and causes, but you can absolutely utilize words like apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship utilization, community hire components into all the language, even if it's on a private sector. I truly believe that you have the upper hand when a developer is coming to you as city council members and they're asking what your needs are, because there's a discussion of what you want to see from the project, also what community wants to see from the project, right? Is just that, right? So, the numbers are probably changing and probably getting a little bit higher, but a few years ago, we did a commission study and we know that over 51%, now that's over 51% of our over 100,000 members live within the 5 boroughs. Now let's think about that. Let's say 55,000, let's say, what it is. That's not 55 individuals, 55,000, that's 55,000 families, right? That also in turn have other members and growing kids that are looking to feed into this pipeline as well, because they know how good it could be for them. If my kids today, which are 11 and 15, say, Dad, I don't think college is for me, would I be upset? Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit, right? But I know that there's a pathway to the middle class in organized labor, right? There are two roads to be successful in life. We just have to make sure we know what we want in that.
Thank you for answering the questions.
Thank you.
I will now turn it over to Chair Farias. Chair, you may begin.
Thank you, and thanks for all of those responses, Santos. Just to stick on the pre-apprenticeship programs, 2 quick questions. How do unions evaluate and determine when they are in need of additional graduates of direct entry pre-apprenticeship programs to specifically meet annual number of reserved slots for women?
It's determined by the pipeline of work that's in the industry. So you know, there's roughly a 10-year cycle in the industry when we have a 10-year high and a 10-year low, right? That's determined by the workload that's coming in, right? Our pre-apprenticeship programs and our apprentice coordinators have a direct line with one another, right? So through the Department of Labor website, through DOL, if you pull a search on DOL and look apprenticeship, New York City, apprenticeship opportunities in New York City, it will tell you what union is giving out application, because by law they have to post it. I forget, it's 30, 60 days before they actually give out applications. At that moment, our apprentice coordinators will contact New Skills, P2A helmets. Hey, we need XYZ from your program to come by and interview to see if they meet, you know, whatever requirements need to be met. It could be something as, you know, carrying a 50-pound bucket, right? Someone can't carry that. That's going to be a burden. New has a rigorous program where they train and you guys were part of that. They train, they make sure that the women that are coming in are being able to work their way up to that if they're not, right, already there. And then geez, there's a lot, excuse me, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on that we can do on that forefront. But basically is that the pipeline of work will set forth how many more folks we can bring in on a year to year, and how many times the recruitment opens up on a year to year also, right?
Right. Okay. Is that the same in terms of like when additional apprenticeship slots are available? And
that is.
Planning. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will now ask if there are any more questions from council members. As a reminder, if council members have questions for a particular panelist, they should use the raise hand function in Zoom at this time.
Can I raise my hand?
Sure. You might as before we conclude. Go ahead, Santos.
Just really quick, I just want to add the child care issue, right? Child care is huge. Kathleen spoke about the pilot program that we and NAP2 along with New are working together. This is a real issue in our industry, and I'll tell you why. We don't work 5 to 9. A 9 to 5 job or 8 to 4 job. Our members work. They get up 4:30, depending on where they're going to work at, right? If there's a concrete pour that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, that concrete pour is not done till they finish pouring all the concrete that can take to 6, 7 o'clock at night. So to find childcare that is open sooner and stayed open later is very important. And I think this is a huge problem across all sectors in the industry. I don't think it's only a construction industry issue, but it's one of the highest issues that we have, is finding that location that, one, is open and two, that stays open later. All right, so thank you very much for that opportunity, Bianca.
You're welcome, Santos. I'm going to give another second or two for council member questions, if any. Okay. I don't believe there are any more questions. So we'll move on to our next panel. I would now like to welcome Tiara Williams. After Tiara, we'll be hearing from Carla Cruz. And then last on this panel will be Kyle Simmons. Tiara, you may begin when the timer starts. Thank you.
Time starts now.
My name is Tiara Williams. I'm a Local 79 organizer, and thank you guys for allowing me to speak today. The primary barrier women face in entering the construction field is not discrimination or harassment. Those are the injustices I faced and overcame as a non-union worker. What women cannot overcome is the lack of good jobs, not just good paying jobs, but safe and supportive jobs. Women have come a long way because of unions like mine. Our collective voice through unions has increased safety standards, protected vulnerable workers, and restored confidence in underserved communities. Working non-union for me was a dead-end job. I took nothing but losses and risks that put me in a position to either get severely injured or never return home to my son. The union has fully restored my confidence. I'm a healthy taxpayer of New York. The support given to me from my individual brothers and sisters has helped me to evolve and tap into areas within myself that were clouded by struggle and depression. The union has provided me with the safest and most welcoming workplace environment a woman can ask for. Here I can focus on my work ethic and don't have to worry about discriminatory acts or wage theft. Since I've joined the union, I've never experienced these injustices because I am entitled to equal pay by our contract, and we have shop stewards and business agents to protect us if any job site issues arise. All workers deserve thrivable wages, family health insurance, emergency savings, and retirement benefits. Women especially are the backbone of families and deserve the same protections and privileges men have historically enjoyed. We are the centers of our communities, but cannot fully participate in life if we are struggling to survive. Being able to have time for my rapidly growing son, moving out of my grandmother's house, having full medical coverage, and looking forward to a well-funded pension is a blessing that many women have not yet received. You can help with that. As city council members, you have tremendous power to create opportunities for women to access union careers like mine. You get to approve rezoning, subsidies, and tax incentives for each estate project, for real estate projects, I'm asking you to consider holding the door open for women and people of color when you cast those votes. I'm asking that you aid in taking care of the women that hold up our communities. I am asking that you make sure that these projects are done by union contractors, which will ensure women are welcomed on a job, paid properly, fully insured, and protected as every worker should be. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Tiara. We'll now be hearing from Carla Cruz. Carla, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Hi, thank you Chairs Caban, De La Rosa, and Farias for hosting this oversight hearing on gender diversity in the trades. One of the main challenges faced by women in the workforce is the societal belief that our labor is not as valuable as our male counterparts. For women of color, our value is worth even less. Gender pay inequality is not only discriminatory, but a business model that suppresses general wage growth. We've spoken a lot this morning about what can the city do, what can council members do to ensure that there is more equity when it comes to women in the trades. And the only real answer to this is we need to start looking at the root problem of what is causing women to leave non-union job sites, women not to hold strong retention rates in the non-union development side. And that is because there have been policies put forth by city and other administrations where HPD, who is a developmental agency, doesn't have any labor standards when they build all of the affordable housing on behalf of the city. We have EDC, who continually awards developers who contract out to non-union contractors. The only real way that we'll be able to close gender wage gap is through collective bargaining. And right now, a lot of the affordable housing development, the majority of affordable housing development that's being developed by the city is being done by non-union contractors, where these things just don't happen on their own. Diversity doesn't happen on its own. Changing societal beliefs that women are just as valuable doesn't happen on its own. And this is where city council needs to step up. Just like my sister from Local 79 just mentioned, it's really your responsibility on how we create policies that ensure that rezonings have labor standards, to make sure that HPD is not hiding behind their accountability, and EDC as well. We spoke about the oversight of PLAs. Well, how do we scale that? We have a structure where we work with C-Skills, which recruits directly with high school students. We work with NEW, which directly recruits women. The structure is there, but what we're not talking about is how do we scale our structure? How do we scale more jobs? How do we scale more of this? And this goes back to the root problem of HPD and EDC pretty much developing and handing out millions of tax money to non-union contractors who don't have any of these mechanisms that we have in our job sites, where women feel protected, women feel safe to speak about sexual harassment. There's a lot more financial independence because the jobs that we're able to provide actually carry family sustaining wages and really change your financial stability. So, I mean, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but we need to focus on the root problem. And that is something that this council can really do to bring more opportunities for women and create the equity that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. We'll now be hearing from Kyle Simmons. You may begin, Kyle, when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Darren Simmons, and I have been the president of the New York City Laborers Local 924, which is a public service union, since December of 2001. I want to thank the City Council and all its chairs for holding this very important forum. Most of the testimony I've been hearing has been focused primarily around private sector workers. I have to say, as president of the City Laborers, which is the only entry level in the city of New York that has the responsibility of assisting every skilled tradesman that is employed by the city of New York, which is roughly over 15,000 skilled tradesmen made up of stationary engineers, painters, carpenters, roofers, tin knockers, steam fitters, electricians, you name it, cement masons. They are all employed at the city of New York. We are entry-level position. We're the only prevailing rate construction title that works for the city of New York, that there is no formal education, no experience necessary. It's on-the-job training, and it's an appointed position. So none of my members, which I represent, which over 75% of them are of minority origin, can be employed by the city of New York without any issues whatsoever in reference to the hiring process, and gain on-the-job experience, whether it's in electrical work, plumbers, carpenters, painters work, and be able to make a decision on what path that they would like to enter into in the future and have a permanent position. Every one of the individuals that are hired by the city of New York come in with a starting salary of over $75,000 a year plus benefits. There's no maturation to a specific title, whatever, whether the laborer is been employed for 1 year or been employed for 40 years, we all have the same salary coming in the door and going out the door. I can say, being employed at DEP, they have been putting obstacles in the way in reference to hiring not only minorities, but also women. I can give kudos to the New York City Housing Authority, because as of July 1st, 2018, they started to hire laborers. And in the course of this short time period, they may have hired maybe over 130 city laborers, and approximately 25 of them or more are women. And the majority of these individuals that they have hired are minority workers, giving them the opportunity to learn the skill. And the opportunity, most importantly, is to take care of their family the way we all should be able to take care of our family. I know the administration of the Adams, both Adams, Speaker Adams and Eric Adams, they may mean well, but I can assure you, you have individuals that are in place, their mindset is 100% differently. in reference to this initiative that you're trying to put together right now. Because I've been dealing with these individuals for an extended period of time, putting these same issues on the table.
I'm expired.
Other individuals.
You may finish, sir.
Okay. I am employed by the Department of Environmental Protection. And right now, they have hired city park workers that make maybe $30,000 a year, 300 of these individuals, to work in the streets of New York City. And as a utility, they are supposed to hire prevailing rate titles and pay them prevailing wages to perform these duties. Most of these individuals are not only minorities, but they're also women. And they're paying these low wages and benefits. Some of these jobs, or most of them, are seasonal also. This is something that over the course of 4 mayorals that I've been here as president have been doing, and I've been calling it attention to not only the mayor's office of labor relations, but DCAS and anybody that would listen. And because we are only 440 strong now, mind you, our primary responsibility is to assist the skilled trades individuals. Besides many other duties that we can do on our own, including landscaping, snow removal, driving vehicles, operating forklifts and things of that nature that we can perform. There's only 440 laborers that are hired by the city of New York to assist these skilled trades. So who are assisting these individuals and how much they are paying these individuals? And I can assure you that a lot of these individuals that are assisting these skilled tradesmen that are majority white males are people of color. And when you look in the Parks Department in the city of New York, there is not one city laborer there today, yet you still got skilled tradesmen, you still got ball fields to maintain, you still got roads to build, you still got pathways to renovate and fences to erect. Yet there is not one city laborer performing those duties yet. 40 years ago, there was well over 1,800, 900 people. At its high point, there was 4,000 city laborers employed by the city Parks Department, and there's not one there today. Those are the avenues and the obstacles that we all have to live with, especially the women, because a lot of these women in the city parks are performing skilled trades work, erecting fences, and helping skilled tradesmen, but not being paid the proper wages and benefits that they are entitled to. So I'm not going to take too much more of your time, but at the end of the day, if y'all would like to continue to discuss these issues that the city of New York can rectify as employers themselves, I'm hoping that this introductory bill 179 will also elaborate and also speak to that, not only on the private sector, but also on the public service employees that are employed by the city of New York, and also link in that behalf. And I thank you very much for your help and your time and allowing me to speak on this very important subject.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I'm going to now turn it over to the chairs for questions for this panel. Chairs, do you have any questions for the panel? Chair De La Rosa, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Yeah, I don't really have questions. I just wanted to thank this panel for giving us an underground view of what is actually happening in your industries. I found your testimonies to be important and gave us a view of exactly what you're going through, the supports we need, as stated by Tiara, the root causes as stated by Carla, and this new issue that Mr. Simmons just brought to my attention. I look forward to following up individually after the hearing. So thank you all so much for being here and expressing your important testimonies.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I will now ask if there are any more questions from council members. As a reminder, if council members have questions for a particular panelist, they should use the raise hand function in Zoom at this time. Let me give a moment. Okay, seeing no hands raised, I will call on the next panel. Thank you, panelists. I will now be calling on Kate Tiskus to testify. After Kate, we'll be hearing from Shai Green, and then last we'll be hearing from Musfika Moshahad. Kate, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairs De La Rosa, Farias, and Caban, council members who are here, and all of the staff who worked so hard to put this hearing together. My name is Kate Tiskus. I'm the Director of Legislative Strategy and Special Projects at Bowen Public Affairs Consulting. I'm also a queer woman and an activist, and I do a lot of work with the transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary community. And the reason I'm here today is to request that the committees and council support a proposed new initiative we've been working on to help LGBTQ+ people into union careers. We're calling it the Pride at Work Initiative, and we're asking that the council fund this proposed initiative in the range of $600,000 to $700,000. The initiative is meant to bring funded organizations together in a multi-sectoral approach with multiple pathways into unionized jobs, focusing on recruiting LGBTQ+ communities in New York City and primarily BIPOC LGBTQ+ communities. Sorry, that's an awful lot of acronyms in a row. Overall, we will have the combined effort of many entities working underneath the umbrella of this initiative to help get LGBTQ+ people into stable union careers, the importance of which so many of my colleagues have testified about today. We're working with workforce organizations who maintain strong union affiliations, LGBTQ+ organizations. We've got support from the SEIU 1199 Employment and Training Fund, and an ask from the Department of Citywide Administrative Services to have an LGBTQ+ liaison to help do hiring halls for LGBTQ+ New Yorkers, and otherwise work to ensure that the civil service is a maximally affirming work environment for people who have a really wide variety of gender expressions. DC 37 supports that ask too. And I feel like many people have spoken very eloquently about this today, but why union employment specifically is so important for this initiative. It's that LGBTQ+ people, especially Black and Brown LGBTQ+ people in New York City, are disproportionately impacted by unemployment and incomes below 200% of the poverty line. Bowen Public Affairs, especially our principal, Andy Bowen, has worked with the city over the last few years to help create the Unity Works workforce program for LGBTQ youth and a manual on LGBTQ+ workplace inclusivity. However, much of the work around LGBTQ+ workforce inclusion focuses on people who are 25 and under. And, you know, people turn 25 every day, as we say. Given the poverty rates and unemployment faced by LGBTQ+ adults, it's clear that we need high road employment of the sort that we get from strong union pathways, as have been discussed today in this hearing. I'm happy to answer any further questions that you might have and ask you chairs and your council colleagues to support the Pride at Work initiative with initial funding in fiscal year 23 of $600,000 to $700,000. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Kate. We'll now be hearing from Shai Green. Shai, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. Shai, thank you.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of gender diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion. My name is Shai Green. I am a 9-year union member with Local 7 Laborers by way of union apprenticeship training. I'm also the executive director of Pathways to Apprenticeship, a registered direct entry pre-apprenticeship training program under the NYC Building Trades affiliates of the ARC, Apprenticeship Readiness Collective, along with non-traditional employment for women, helmets to hard hats, and construction skills. Pathways to Apprenticeship became a direct entry in 2000. Since placed hundreds of women, Black and Brown minorities, and individuals into unionized construction trades under the NYC trade. Pizza runs about 6 cohorts a year, ranging between 4 to 6 weeks of safety training, including sexual harassment training by way of a 2-hour and discussion from Local 3 electrical.
Shai, I'm so sorry. I think you're experiencing technical issues. If there's like a playback, hold on 1 second. We can start this again. Oh my goodness. Hold on 1 second. Oh, there you are. Okay, so sorry about that. You can start from the top, and we can. Do you want to just test your audio again to see if you playback is clear?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, great.
Coming in loud and clear. And Sergeant, can you just not have the timer on so Shai can start again? Okay, Shai, you may begin.
Thanks so much. So I'll start over. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to testify on behalf of gender diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion. My name is Shai Green. I'm a 9-year union member with Local 79 Laborers by way of union apprenticeship training. I'm also the executive director of Pathways to Apprenticeship, a registered direct entry pre-apprenticeship training program under the NYC Building Trades, an affiliate of the ARC, Apprenticeship Readiness Collective, along with non-traditional employment for women, helmets to hard hats, and construction skills. Pathways to Apprenticeship became a direct entry in 2018 and has since placed hundreds of women, Black and Brown minorities, and justice impacted individuals into unionized construction trades. P2A runs about 6 cohorts per year, ranging between 4 to 6 weeks of safety training, including sexual harassment training by way of a 2-hour performance and discussion from Local 3 electrical journey workers, as well as actors of the working theater. The city has been extremely supportive of these trainings and continues to allow us the flexibility to create more programming around safety, training, and inclusion. Each cohort seats about 25 participants, and our continued goal is 4 to 6 women per cohort. I'm excited about the proposal of Bill Intro 179, as I personally understand the importance of women in the trades. Prior to coming into Local 79 Laborers, I was a single mom making minimum wage, working at a non-union company. I was exploited, discriminated against, and disrespected. Had it not been for the Local 79 Laborers apprenticeship opportunity, I would have left the construction field completely, not knowing what my next move would have been or where I'd be today. I'm living proof of the importance of apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, and union careers in construction for all, specifically for all women. Though there were many personal boundaries, as a single mother of 2 with a foster care and criminal justice impacted background, I was able to transition from welfare and Medicaid insurance to a 6-figure income and great healthcare benefits for myself and my family due to my career in the building trades. Today, I am speaking on behalf of the Pride at Work initiative. Though P2A has always opened its doors to the LGBTQ community unofficially, we have recently partnered with Bowen Public Affairs Consulting and Pride at Work to ensure all women continue to be educated and included in these amazing building trades opportunities. We ask that you support the Pride at Work initiative that has been proposed to council, as it is vital to helping LGBTQ+ communities, especially BIPOC, trans, gender, non-conforming, and non-binary people find employment. This has the support of our organization, the Ironworkers Union, as well as non-traditional employment for women. We appreciate the continued support of Team Moya and hope to continue working together to provide continued life-changing opportunities for residents of New York City by way of fighting for and creating more unionized jobs. We must continue to emphasize the importance of safe construction work by way of union apprenticeship trainings into union construction building trades. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Shai. We'll now be hearing from Musfika. Musfika, you may begin when the timer starts.
Time starts now.
Hello, thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak today. Greetings to the chairs and all members of the present committees. My name is Mushfika Mushahid. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm here as the Muslim Women Civic Empowerment Program Coordinator at the Muslim Community Network. So the Muslim Women Civic Empowerment Program is an initiative that the Muslim Community Network has recently started this fall to empower and equip Muslim women through Muslim women that are often marginalized, excluded, and erased with the resources, skills, and information needed to be more civically engaged, self-empowered, and aware of their rights. Through the program, we facilitate skill and confidence building workshops, connections to services, networks, and resources, and advocate for the creation of inclusive spaces for Muslim women in public, private, and faith institutions. I'm here today to amplify the voices of the women from our program who have demonstrated the need for access to free childcare, and its significance in eliminating poverty and allowing them to participate in the labor market for economic and financial stability. While we acknowledge and commend the state for allocating $4 billion to New York City childcare, we want to emphasize the need for these funds to be distributed across the city and not forgetting the childcare needs of women in areas that have always been forgotten or neglected. We therefore urge the chairs and the members of the committees present here today to ensure that the proposed task force acknowledge the role that access to childcare plays in getting women to be more active in all workplaces, but especially those deemed as non-traditional. Free daycare is essential and crucial if we want to see more inclusive workspaces. In interacting with the first cohort of women in the program, we learned that when women are given the chance to harness their own agency and build their leadership skills, their confidence increases and they're empowered to participate in different sectors of society and feel confident in their abilities, not just for themselves, but in assisting others and improving society. So with that being said, more funding and support is needed for programs like the Muslim Women's Program, skill enhancement training programs, and adult literacy programs. Many women in our program didn't read or write in English or any language for that matter, so more adult literacy programs are necessary to empower women so that they can better participate in this type of work or in any type of work or facet of society. Our women's program served women who spoke in many different languages, and we realized that without the language accommodation, our program would not have been possible. And as a result, we believe that language access and language diversity is essential to conducting outreach around these types of trade jobs and any type of career advancement if we want to reach marginalized, hard to reach communities of women, such as women of color, immigrant women. We need to ensure that all outreach efforts are consistently linguistically diverse and inclusive. Additionally, we want to urge council members to pass a bill to lift the limit on the number of available permits and licenses that are given for offenders so that more women can have the opportunity to legally operate their businesses and feel empowered as entrepreneurs with permits and licenses. Some of the women we work with struggle financially and can't make ends meet because they're not able to obtain a license to continue their business safely. So women are powerful contributors to society, as we all know, but they have to be provided with the right resources such as free childcare, more training programs, especially for women, and ending barriers like limits on available permits and license. Once again, thank you so much to all the chairs and members of the committee and the members of the committees on women and gender equity, Committee on Civil Service, Labor, and Economic Development for the opportunity to testify on this important matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fika. We will now turn to Chair Caban for questions for this panel. Chair Caban, you may begin.
Thank you. And similar to the last panel, not really a question, but a comment. I want to just extend my deepest gratitude for the testimony offered, and particularly personally for the work being done around queer BIPOC folks in this work. As a queer Latina myself, I am all too aware of the numbers around incarceration, homelessness, unemployment, barriers to access to healthcare, vastly disproportionately affect BIPOC queer folks. And I see union jobs as the path out of all of those things. So just deeply, deeply appreciative for the work that y'all are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Caban. I'm going to now ask if there are any more questions from council members. As a reminder, if council members have questions for a particular panelist, they should use the raise hand function in Zoom at this time. Okay, seeing as there are no hands raised, I'm going to do a last round call for any registrants that we have inadvertently missed anyone. If you have registered to testify today and you have not been called on, please use the Zoom raise hand function now, and you will be called on in the order that your hand has been raised. Okay. Seeing as there is no hand raised, I will now turn it over to the chairs for closing remarks. Chair De La Rosa, you may give your closing remarks. Thank you all.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues, Chair Caban and Farias, for coming together and helping us to create a much needed platform as we work to ensure that diversity and gender equity not only exist, but are retained in the trades. I want to take the moment to also thank NEW, the Building and Construction Trades Council, the Laborers, Local 79, the District Council of Carpenters, Pride at Work, and all of the advocacy organizations that have joined us and the workers who have shared their important testimony with us today. It is clear from this hearing that this City Council has the power to invest in the expansion of apprenticeship programs, and as has already been noted as a priority by our Speaker, Adrian Adams, in our budget response, we must also continue to work to support all of the workers, especially those who have been traditionally excluded, women, trans and non-binary workers, BIPOC workers, and those who face mounting obstacles for success. As the chair of the Civil Service and Labor Committee, I look forward to supporting Intro 179 presented by Councilmember Moya as a way for us to take a focused and deep dive in examining the role of women in non-traditional workplaces. We also look forward to working with the Adams administration to explore ways to expand pathways to employment, including the strengthening and expanding the use of PLAs to guarantee union jobs in community development across our city. Our committee staff will work together to follow up with the administrative agencies that joined us today so that we can receive timely responses to the pointed and important questions asked by council members. And we will distribute those responses to committee members as they come in. Thank you all to the staff who made today's hearing a success. We can't wait to see the progress that will come out of this important hearing.
Chair Caban, do you have some closing remarks?
Sure, I will be incredibly brief. I know it has been a long day, and I'm just simply going to co-sign everything that my fellow chair has just said. Thank my fellow chairs, all the committee staff, every single person who testified, but especially, the workers who testified about, their very personal narratives and intimate experiences, because those are the ones that are going to deeply, deeply inform the work that we do. We are deeply committed to making sure that we follow up on every answer we did not get today, and look forward to continuing to working on these issues together. So really appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Thank you. Chair Farias, do you have any closing remarks? Okay, I'm going to just turn it back over to Chair De La Rosa to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you all for coming, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Bye.